but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome, Washington Commander fans. Oh my God, you know what it is. It's the command post with me, your man, Louie T. Post up and take command. I almost don't know how to feel about this. My wife literally, I was literally typing up a poll, and I actually posted it on my wall asking what you guys would want to do in free agency, because there was a report yesterday, and I was going to do a quick little video on it talking about Washington being interested in Jameis Winston. And I didn't want his ass, but I wanted to know how you guys felt. So that was going to be a topic of discussion tomorrow night on the show. And I was going to put out this poll, and I was going to see what the poll reflected. And I was going to give you my thoughts on the situation and which one of these guys I would rather go after. And then she says, oh my God. And anytime she says, oh my God, whatever she says thereafter is a bombshell. She goes, oh my God. I'm like, what? We traded for Carson Wentz. I was like, stop playing. That shit doesn't even sound right. Stop playing. She said, we traded for Carson Wentz. And then it set in. Desperate times call for desperate measures. What did I tell y'all? I told you a week ago on the Command Post Live. I said, we're desperate. I told you when Ron was talking at the podium at the combine, when he started talking about Matthew Stafford and how much the Rams gave up and how nobody cares, which we actually do. Nobody cares about what they gave up because they won the Super Bowl. And look at Matthew Stafford. And we tried to get him. I said, oh my God, we're desperate. I told you guys. I said, we're desperate. You never want to be desperate. And I told you, we've been talking. We've been A-Marie. Every time Ron mouth opens, he is talking about QBs. He was talking about QBs, and I'm like, Lord, shut up. So everybody knew we were desperate. And here it is. Carson Wentz, a guy that nobody wanted last offseason, when he had his stock was definitely higher than it is now, okay? Because the Eagles ultimately got a first-round pick out of him. We're now trading for a guy that we saw up close and personal for years in this division. He was really good for a spell there. This is his third team in 3 years, okay? He couldn't get the Colts to the playoffs with the Jacksonville Jaguars standing in the way. I get it. It's family business, and you know how family business goes. You throw the records out the window, and these teams know each other very well. Still, he didn't get the vaccine last year. That was a point of contention. We know he's been a cancer in the locker room. At least that was the case in Philadelphia. Didn't really hear about that in Indianapolis. Actually seemed like he was a really good teammate in Indianapolis. Still, didn't get the vaccine. That was a problem and a source of contention. He didn't play well down the stretch. He got injured because that's what Carson Wentz does. And he made mistakes. He turned the football over. He fumbled. He threw interceptions. The Colts have a really good offensive line. Ours is not better than theirs, okay? I think we might actually pass protect better than they do, but we don't run block better than they do, obviously, clearly. So he had a dominant run game with Jonathan Taylor. Their defense was really good, and they still didn't make it to the playoffs with Carson Wentz. So you bring him here. I think we've got more weapons on offense. The Colts really, they don't have a lot of weapons offensively. They did have a dominant run game, which kind of masked the fact that they didn't have a lot of weapons for him to get the football to. That's a problem in Indy that they need to solve. However, the fact still remains, Carson Wentz is an enigma, okay? And I don't know how to feel about this other than I don't want his ass. But then again, I didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo's ass. I didn't want Jameis Winston. We're going to get somebody, okay? So at this point, I'm still trying to process what the hell we just did. For those of you just showing up and don't know the entire situation, Washington traded for Carson Wentz a second-round pick. So the Colts and Washington essentially swapped second-rounders, okay? Washington's second-round pick very early on, Colts' second-round pick a little bit later on in the second round. So we're going to swap second-rounders. We're giving up 2 third-round picks, okay? One this year, one next year. And the Colts essentially are giving us Carson Wentz and a second-round pick. So we're swapping seconds, and we're giving up 2/3. That's essentially the deal, okay? So if you want to just kind of cut the middleman out, it's 2/3 for Carson Wentz. Yeah, we're swapping second-round picks. That's a part of the deal, but we'll get their second. They'll get our second. We're swapping, and so we're swapping those, and we're giving up 2 third-round picks. That's essentially the deal. Now, here's the kicker. One of those third-round picks, the one next year, is conditional. It can turn into a second, just like the Eagles' second-round pick turned into a first-round pick based off of play percentage with Carson Wentz. Same thing applies here. If Wentz plays a X amount of snaps, probably 75, 80% of the snaps, more likely than not, it's usually in the 70s. So 75% of the snaps in the regular season, then they would then get a second-round pick. That third-round pick would turn into a second-round pick. So it's a conditional 2. So it's a 3 right now. Next year, it can turn into a 2. And it's not a lot for Carson Wentz, right? Like, I think that's where they wanted to go with this, is they didn't want to give up a ton. They didn't want to give up their first-round pick, right? They didn't want to give up their second-round pick, which they didn't. They still have a second-round pick. It's just not the one that they would have had originally, but they're further back in the second round. They still have a second-round pick. They do not have a third-rounder now, unless we had 2. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to check, because I do feel like we picked up a compensatory pick or something along the way, but we'll see. Or we traded for something and we picked up some picks. I don't know. Right now, just know that we traded away our third-round pick. Now, I don't know if we have another one stashed away for a rainy day or not, but 2 3s for Carson Wentz is essentially what the deal amounts to. And his $28 million salary, which we'll be picking up. We're picking up the tab on the $28 million salary for Carson Wentz. $5 million of that is guaranteed next week. This is why the deal is getting done now, because he's due a roster bonus at the start of the new league year. So the Colts needed to get this thing done before the start of the new league year, when they would be on the hook for $5 million. We're now on the hook for those $5 million and his base salary, which is $28 million. So in aggregate, we're going to pay Carson Wentz essentially $30 million and give up 2 third-round picks to see if this guy is any good. And I don't know what this means for whether we're going to be aggressive in the quarterback market in the draft or not. I don't even know what this means, because to me, when you trade for a quarterback, it means that you think that guy is the answer. If you didn't think he was the answer, you would just get a guy in free agency and you would draft a quarterback. So in the way my brain works, I think Washington is skipping the 2022 NFL draft at the quarterback position. And I listened to Martin Mayhew talk at the combine, and he pretty much said, I'm aware of what's coming down the pipeline next year in the draft, fully aware. And so what we're going to do is we're going to position ourselves with this move with Carson Wentz. If he doesn't work out, we'll be in a position to draft a quarterback next year. That's what this means. Okay. So in my mind, I think they're going to bypass the quarterback position now. That's what this says to me, is we're going to roll with Wentz, similar to what the Panthers did with Sam Darnold last year. We're going to roll with Darnold. If he stinks, we'll be right there. See where the Panthers are, right? Drafting 7th. We'll be right there, 6th or 7th. We'll be right in a position to draft a quarterback next year, when there will be some quarterbacks teams will be going after aggressively. And we may be one of them. Okay. So in my mind, this could be inaccurate, and I can't confirm nor deny this, but in my mind right now, I see this as a move to end all moves for quarterbacks this year. You go with Wentz, Taylor Heineke, and maybe you add, Kyle Allen back to the mix if you're not comfortable with those 2 veterans, because they could both get injured conceivably. But right now, to me, this says Wentz is your quarterback for 2022, and I don't know if he's your quarterback beyond that. And Taylor Heineke's his back, more pieces to the table, to see if you can help Carson Wentz and insulate him even further. And you go after the quarterback position again aggressively next year if he doesn't work out. That's what this feels like in the moment. I could be wrong, and they could still be looking to upgrade the quarterback position with a young guy that they like. And if Wentz starts to flame out or he gets injured, they throw the young guy in there and see what he has. Wentz he's too expensive to be a bridge quarterback. You don't pay $30 million for a guy that's just going to be a bridge to your next quarterback. Okay. Not with that guy already on the roster. And knowing Carson Wentz's mental history, his mental state in the past, it's not a good idea to draft a young quarterback if you want Carson Wentz to be at his best. He doesn't need to be looking over his shoulder. That was the problem in Philadelphia. He had a complex. He couldn't get over the fact that Nicholas Foles won them the Super Bowl, even though he did a lot of the heavy lifting during the regular season. Then they go out and get Jalen Hurts after they trade away the guy that was supposed to be the problem in Nicholas Foles, and he couldn't get over the fact that Jalen Hurts was sitting behind him. So I don't think it's a good idea to draft a young quarterback, even if you have no intentions of playing that young quarterback, if you want to get the most out of Carson Wentz. So here's the skinny on Carson Wentz. Early in his career, this guy looked like he was a part of the new wave of quarterback that was going to take over the league. Remember that 2017 season when the Eagles ultimately hoisted the Lombardi? The guy was playing at an MVP level before he tore his ACL in Los Angeles versus the Rams, okay? So keep in mind that it is in there. We know it to be in there. He used to kick our ass every year, okay? However, that seems like eternities ago. Okay, seems like an eternity ago. This guy hasn't been good since 2018. The last time he led the Eagles to the playoffs. He wasn't good in 19. He wasn't good in 2020. He wasn't good for the Colts last year. He was marginal for the Colts last year. So I don't know how they plan on getting the Carson Wentz that we saw back in 16 and 17 and 18 to show back up. I don't know how they plan on getting that guy to show up at the commander's building when he reports for duty. Commander Wentz reporting for duty. Sir, I don't know how they plan on getting that Carson Wentz back. But if we get the Carson Wentz that we saw in 2020 or the one that was in 2021 that stunk at times for the Indianapolis Colts, or who was just a game manager, because honestly, that's what he felt like in Indy. He didn't feel like a playmaker like he was in Philadelphia. He felt like a game manager. And he's one of those guys that likes to extend plays and extend and then overextend the play to the point where he gets himself into trouble. He can make a play. He can also overextend for too damn long and get sacked and lose 27 yards or fumble the goddamn football or take a knee to the helmet because he's always doing that stupid ass duck move when he's got pressure on him, and he could take a knee to the head, and next thing you know, he's got a damn concussion. So this is a dicey move by Washington, but desperate times call for desperate measures. What did I tell you guys a couple of weeks ago when we heard Ron Rivera speak at the Combine? I said, this guy sounds desperate. We are desperate. I said, oh no, the title of the video was, oh no, we're ... And I came on and told you guys, oh no, we're desperate. We're delusional and we're desperate. This reeks of desperation. This reeks of desperation. I can say this much. I'd rather Carson Wentz than Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll tell you this much. I'd rather Carson Wentz than Jameis Winston or Mitchell Trubisky or Marcus Mariota. I don't love what we're paying him. I don't love what we had to give up to get him. But he's a better option than all those other guys, because he's done it at a much higher level than any of those guys that we were rumored to be after potentially. The problem is that seems like an eternity ago. And now not one team, but two teams have given up on this man in the last 2 seasons. And now he's here in Washington. I don't know how to feel about this, but I think I know how I feel about this. I think I feel like we're a desperate team, and we just did something for the sake of saying we did something because Ron said he was going to do something at the quarterback position. This is how you get into trouble. It's the same way in the draft. When you're desperate at a position and you start reaching for a position of need, that's how you get into trouble. The only thing that I will say about this move, if they do not select a quarterback, which I right now going to draw an inference here, I'm going to go out on the ledge and say that they're not going to select a quarterback in the draft now. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. I could be wrong. But this, again, when you go out and you trade for a guy, you give up draft capital and you're going to pay him $30 million essentially. I don't think you then follow up and draft a guy. I told you, when Ron said we're going to get a veteran and we're going to get a rookie, he was talking about in free agency. If we traded for a guy, and I made this very clear 3 weeks ago on the show, I said, if we trade for a guy, or it might have been 2 weeks ago on the show, I said, if we trade for a guy, whether it was Wilson or Rodgers or Watson or Carr or now Wentz or Jimmy Garoppolo, if we trade for a quarterback, you're not going to pair him with a rookie. The only scenario in which you get a rookie is if you got a veteran in free agency that you know is a stopgap. They're not sure if Carson Wentz is a stopgap. They are willing to kick the tires on Wentz to see if they can bring the old Wentz back. They like, look, I don't know where they win at. I'm just trying to bring the good times back. All right. I don't know where they win at. I'm just trying to bring the good Carson Wentz back. So if they can somehow revive that guy, pull him out of the grave, and get him to play that kind of football, we know he has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league because he was that dude in 2017. And he was still really good. Go look at the numbers in 2018. He was really good. I think he was 30 touchdowns, like 8 interceptions. He was really good. Led them to the postseason, home playoff game, won the division. He was still really good in 2018. It wasn't until 2019 when they drafted Jalen Hurts. That's when the bottom fell out. Or was that 2020? It was 2020 when they drafted Jalen Hurts, when the bottom started to fall out. When he couldn't get over the fact that we drafted this dude. So I might have had my years mixed up. I feel like 17 was the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I think he was good in 18 again. I think you started to see him kind of hit that down, turn in 19. They drafted Hurts in 20, and that's when the shit hit the fan. And that's when they had to trade him to Indy in 2021, and he didn't play well enough there to secure his spot. And the Colts wanted to move on, and they did. So I think you got to go back to 2018, the last time when this guy was a really good quarterback in this league. That's a long time ago, guys. Long, long time ago. So in my mind, they're going to roll the dice with Wentz this year. If it doesn't work out, if it comes up snake eyes and they break guys, I think we turn our attention to the 2023 draft at the quarterback position. And I think we go all in, give up whatever it takes to go and get a quarterback next year in the draft. I think that's the move that they're looking at, is if if he's good, or they feel like they've gotten it right, then you continue to build. If you don't feel that way with Wentz, then you move on next year, just like the Colts did. So I can tell you this is Carson Wentz's last chance to be a legitimate NFL starter. This is the end of the road for him. All right, like Boys to Men, this is the end of the road. If he can't cut it here in Washington, his third team in 3 years, okay, third team in as many years. If he can't get it done here, he won't get another opportunity to be the unquestioned starter anywhere else in the league. But this move reeks of desperation. And I told you guys, we're desperate. We are desperate. Here's the end result. So, all right, guys. I want to hear from you. Let the team have it. If you don't love this, I'm pretty sure Eagles fans are laughing at us hysterically because they're like, hey, this dude was trash with us. Now you're getting our leftovers. Okay, he went to Indy. We milked a first-round pick out of this clown, and now he's coming around like a boomerang back to the division because he stinks. So we're never going to hear the end of this from Eagles fans either. The only thing I can hold out hope for is that he's in there. I'm talking to Carson Wentz, and I'm like, bro, I know it's in there. I've seen it with my own eyes. I know it exists. I don't know where it went, but bring it back. Bring it back. Okay? Bring it back. We'll see if he can do that or not here in Washington. I know one thing. They better go get him a big-ass receiver. He needs one in the worst way. I need them to go get him a big target. And it'd be great to get Logan Thomas back. That would help. He loves throwing the football to the tight end. Did it with Zach Ertz. Did it last year with the tight ends in Indy, most specifically Mo Alley Cox. We need to go get him a big tight end, man. That'll help him out a lot. Or a big target, I should say. Logan Thomas coming back from injury. Don't know when that's going to take place, but that would really help a lot because he loves getting the football to the tight end, especially if they're a big target. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say as this bombshell has been dropped in our lap. Wow. Carson Wentz is a member of the Commanders. Never saw this one coming. This one came out of left field, guys. It truly, truly did. All right. Captain Flarb Narg, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what does this mean for our future? I mean, if I'm keeping it a buck with you, what this means in the short term, this doesn't mean anything long term right now. We can't predict the future. Short term, I think the immediate impact is on the draft, okay? And maybe even free agency to that degree, because maybe now that you feel like Wentz is your guy, maybe you get a little bit more aggressive in free agency going after, a tight end to add to the mix. I don't think they're going to add a guy in free agency at the receiver position. They did that last year. Like, people keep forgetting about Curtis Samuel. They're not going to add another free agent wide receiver. If they do add another receiver, it'll be via the draft. So now at 11, that's another thing that's impacted the draft. I don't think they're taking a quarterback. I don't think quarterback was ever out of play at 11, but I don't think that they were going to take one at 11. I think now they're definitely not taking a quarterback at 11. And I don't think, for that matter, they're taking a quarterback at all in the draft, unless a guy falls into their lap that they absolutely love at the back end of the second round, where the Colts pick, which is now our pick. That's the only way I see them taking a quarterback. And I still don't even think that's a good idea on their part. If they really want to maximize Carson Wentz and make this thing work, he needs to have a clean slate. He needs to not have to look over his shoulder. He doesn't have to worry about Taylor Heineke. Heineke had his chance last year. So they don't need to draft anyone. I don't think they will. And they could easily take that number 11 overall pick and spend it on a wide receiver now. I wouldn't be shocked if they did that. So we'll see what happens. But for the immediate future, it means we're not drafting a quarterback. That's my take. I could be wrong about that. Okay. And it could mean that we get a little bit more aggressive in free agency as well, even though a lot of the big name tight ends are now, gone via the franchise tag. I think that's what it says, to me at least. Now, in the long term, we don't know, because if he plays well, it could mean he's our future quarterback. If he doesn't play well, then that means we'll be back in the quarterback market next year, and we'll really be aggressive in what will be a much better crop of quarterbacks coming into the league next year in 2023. So I think all that this means is Washington isn't going to go after a quarterback in this year's draft class, but rather wait till next year if Wentz doesn't pan out. But that's what it means for our future, I think, right now. Let's see. Alex, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate it. I don't even know what it says, but I know he's an Eagles fan, and this could get ugly. He says, I called it, Lou. Ha. I'm so sorry, man. He's already apologizing to us. Yikes. Now, as a Washington fan, I would love nothing more than to have Carson Wentz come here and stick it to the Eagles and kick ass in this division and make the Eagles, because there were a lot of Eagles fans that swore by this guy when, the first few years of his career. He was awesome. That's why the Eagles extended him, right? I mean, he was drafted in 2016 along with Jared Goff in that draft, and he was fantastic that rookie season in 16 and 17 and 18, and then they gave him the extension because they said, we need to get out ahead of this train. This guy's phenomenal. And then he stunk it up in 19, and then 20, the wheels fell off, and then they traded him. So I'm hoping he can get back to that. But Eagles fans swore by him after his first 3 years in the league. I get it. I know why you're laughing, and we'll see. I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong. That's all I can say is I hope you're wrong, but you have every right to laugh. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Lorenzo writes, best second-tier quarterback that was available. We didn't overpay and look at the draft and act bougie looking at these quarterbacks if we don't love them. BPA. I don't think you're wrong, Zoe. I don't. Like, this is like I said, this is why I said I'm conflicted with my emotions, because if I'm keeping it a buck with y'all, you could do a hell of a lot worse than Carson Wentz. Like, you can't love him. Not after what he's done the last 3 years. You can't love him, but you can't hate him either, because somewhere in there is a player that at one point was playing at an MVP-like level Again, it feels like eons ago, but he's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. He's better than Jameis Winston. He's better than Marcus Mariota. He's better than, Mitchell Trubisky. He's better than Teddy Bridgewater. He's better than Jacoby Brissett. Need I go on? Like, these are the quarterbacks we would have been considering had we not done something like this. So if you're telling me I was going to have to spend $30 million and give up draft capital, I'd much rather do it for Carson Wentz than Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, that could be me just trying to explain away my sorrows, but I'm keeping it a buck with you. I know that this is far from fail-proof, right? I understand what we just traded for. But at the same time, if you're desperate, which we were, and you're going to do some desperate shit, I'd rather them do desperate shit with Carson Wentz than Jimmy Garoppolo. And you could call me crazy for that. I'll take it. But I'm not trying to justify this move because I love it, because I don't. But I don't hate it either. And I don't love the draft. You guys know that. Now, there was one guy I had a crush on, and had we taken him, I would have been fine. But all the rest of those guys, and he's not a guarantee either. So, anyway, I digress. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, I didn't want him, but when you're garbage and you get to pick through other garbage, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, okay? He says, desperate times call for desperate measures. Welcome back to the NFC East. Let's get it, Lou. Again, that's essentially where we found ourselves. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And that's essentially what we were, a desperate team that ran out of options. Aaron Rodgers, gone. Russell Wilson, gone. Derek Carr, not going anywhere. Okay. Deshaun Watson, not an option here. I've already explained to you why. So you start looking around at the landscape, and it's Jimmy Garoppolo and it's Carson Wentz, or one of these guys that's a retread in free agency. And Washington looked around and said, we can't sign a guy in free agency like we did with Ryan Fitzpatrick last year. That was an epic fail. We can't do that again. And we don't want Jimmy Garoppolo coming off of shoulder surgery. Hell, we weren't even sold on him before the surgery. We definitely don't want him coming off of surgery. We only really got one option left. Back against the wall. Let's go get Carson Wentz. Again, I don't love it. I don't hate it either. Thank you for the super chat. Big Money Sonny. DMV fan 123. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, feel like giving someone a smack. I don't know who. Carson Wentz trade so good, make you want to smack your mama. Or bad. In this case, you might be feeling some type of way. Yeah, man. I mean, again, the emotions are all over the place as to how to feel about this. Either you love it, you hate it, or you're indifferent, or you're in the middle. Like, I don't really know how to feel. I'm trying to convince myself this was a good move because I know what was lurking out there. And look, it's essentially choosing from, it's dealing with the evil you know versus the evil you don't know. Like, at the end of the day, like Big Money Sonny said, you're sorting through garbage at this point. So why not take the best garbage that was available? And I don't want to call Carson Wentz garbage because, again, he's been a playoff quarterback. Now, he's only played in one playoff game, but he's because he always gets injured, which is, again, something that I struggle with. However, the reason the Eagles have made it to the playoffs the years that he was there was because of his play in the regular season. Wasn't always able to finish what he started, right? They win the Super Bowl. That year, he was an MVP candidate. The next year, they go back to the playoffs. He gets hurt again. And, Big Dick Nick comes in and starts slinging that thing around. And if Alshon Jeffrey can catch, they may be back in the NFC Championship game again. The next year after that, they finally get rid of Nicholas Foles, but then they go out and, I think it was one more year after that. So 18 was the year they went to the playoffs, lost to the Saints. Then they got rid of Nicholas Foles for that 1 year, and they had to, they make it to the playoffs. He gets injured in the playoff game against Seattle, and they had to put in 97-year-old Josh McCown. That's when they had enough. They go and get Jalen Hurts in 2020. and he starts looking over his shoulder. That complex of Nicholas Foles comes rushing back to him again, and he was awful. Don't smack anybody. Okay? Don't smack anybody. Woosah. It's okay. It's okay. Jason Rogers, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Uncle Jay, writes, so Heineke starting week 3 due to injury to Wentz. I'm not speaking that into existence, and usually Wentz is good for the first 2 months of the season before he gets injured. He's not a guy that usually gets injured right away. He's a guy that he starts off like gangbusters. You're 4-1 right out of the gate. He's playing excellent football, and you get to the midpoint of the season, you're 7-3. He's playing at a high level, and then he breaks his wrist, or he tears his ACL, or he hurts his back, or something like that. Then that's when something like that comes into play. Let's hope it's different here. But when has it ever been different here? That's the thing that we continue to harp on, is when is it ever different in Washington? If a guy's had an injury history, it usually continues here in Washington. So we'll see. Or in the case of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Curtis Samuel, never ever trust a man with 2 first names. They didn't have injury histories, and they got one when they got here. So all we can do is hold our breath. Nothing's guaranteed to us. Nothing's promised. All we can just do is say, hey, we were desperate. We did the desperate thing. Now let's see how it turns out. Michael A., thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, a third that turns into a second. What the F are we doing? So it's the same. The Colts were like, look, we want our shit back. We gave up a 2 that turned into a 1. We're going to do the same thing that was done to us. Okay. If he plays X amount because we all know that looms large with Carson Wentz, the amount of games that he's going to be able to play. Remember, with the Colts, he almost wasn't ready for the start of the season. And you could argue, if you're a Carson Wentz apologist, you can say he was never right. Injured his knee in training camp. If you recall, him and Quentin Nelson got injured in training camp. The same exact knee injury, right? It was knee or ankle or foot. I think it was a foot. It was a foot for both of them, as a matter of fact. Both of them had foot injuries. And them starting the season, week 1, was in limbo. And then magically Wentz was ready to go week 1. So was Quentin Nelson. And he kind of never looked back from that point. So you could argue, hey, he was never fully healthy. He was never right in Indianapolis. You could argue that point. I don't know if anybody's listening, but the second round pick potentially is insurance for the Indianapolis Colts. They're like, look, we're giving you a dude that may be a starting quarterback. And this is the thing that I talked about. Because they knew how desperate we were, they could leverage that against us. Had we been out here cool, calm, and collected, like, hey, we good, man. We just draft one of these boys and we straight. You know what I'm saying? Had we kept our mouth shut like Pittsburgh, like Tampa, like New Orleans, had we just played it cool, maybe we don't have to give up a conditional pick that turns into a second if he plays X amount of snaps. But because we out here thirst trapping, letting everybody and their mama know, hey, we need a QB who got one for us. They was like, hey, we know y'all desperate. We know y'all hurting over there. Tell you what we'll do. Couple of threes. We'll swap deuces with you. Couple of threes. And that second 3 could turn into a 2 if he plays 75% of the snaps in the regular season. 70 if y'all make the playoffs. When you're desperate, what you going to say? No? You take the deal. So that's what we're doing, essentially. Corey Vaughn, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Corey Vaughn, writes, hey, Lou, with this addition, do you think we still draft a quarterback early? No, I don't think we draft a quarterback at all, if we're being honest with each other, because at this point, what's the point of drafting a quarterback in the 3rd or the 4th round? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you got Taylor Heineke as your backup, you don't need another middle-of-the-road quarterback. So, in my mind, we're not drafting a quarterback at all. Now, again, I could be wrong about this. They could still take a quarterback at 11. They could still take a quarterback And let's assume that the Colts pick in the second round is the 19th pick in the second round. So let's assume it's the 51st pick in the draft. Okay. So instead of us having the 9th pick in the second round, which would have been 41, we're now picking 51st overall. All right, let's just assume, and I don't know where that pick actually lies, okay? But let's just assume they were one of the last teams to not make it to the playoffs. So let's just assume it's the 19th selection in the second round. Let's say that Desmond Ridder is still sitting there at 51, which is very possible. Who's to say Washington doesn't pull the trigger on him at 51? I don't see the purpose of doing that if you're Washington. There's nothing really to be gained there by doing that, because all it does is tempt you to not go after a quarterback next year. And again, if you're really going all in on Carson Wentz, which is, they're not going all in the sense of, hey, we're going to tear up his contract, give him new money like they did with Alex Smith. But they're essentially saying, we want to see if this can work. And if you want to give this the best possible chance to work, you need to surround Carson Wentz with as many weapons as humanly possible to see what he's been able to do. Because let's keep it a buck. There was never a time in Philadelphia when this guy had infinite weapons. Okay? Never a time. He had solid weapons early on with Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz. But he never had an abundance of weapons. You know, there was that one year he was throwing to Greg Ward and J-Jaw, okay, and all these bums. And he still made them, made it to the playoffs that year before getting injured against Seattle. So the Colts didn't surround him with weapons. They truly did not. So he still never had a full cupboard from which to work with. So if I'm Washington and I want to give him the best chance to succeed, that 11th pick is spent on a skill player. And if it's a skill guy, what other position is it going to be? It's not going to be a running back or a tight end, or it's not going to be a running back or a tight end. Clearly, it's a wide receiver, right? So that's what I would do if I were Washington. If I love one of these linebackers, because it's a deep wide receiver class, you don't have to take a receiver at 11. If you love a linebacker or you love one of these corners, that falls into your lap potentially, then you do that. And receiver will still be there for you at 51 in the second round. It'll still be there. But if you want one of these elite Jones, then I think you have to go ahead and take him at 11. But to answer your question, Corey, no, I don't think we still draft a quarterback. Not early, not often, not ever in this upcoming draft. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, BD, writes, I guess drafting him means Taylor is starting because he will be hurt. Shaking my mother effing goddamn head. That's a lot there at the end to shrink. That's been his MO, is getting injured. I don't have any rebuttal to that, because you're not wrong. Somebody earlier in the comments, matter of fact, it was my guy, Jason Rogers, who said that he would be hurt, early on. That means Taylor starting week 3. I don't think he's going to get hurt early, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got hurt late. And that's been the story of his career. But sometimes careers change trajectory. His was on this upward one that now is on a decline. Maybe it's going back up. Everybody loves a redemption story. Everyone likes to root for the underdog, the guy that was counted out. Why can't we get a feel-good story here? We deserve something, right? And I'm not talking about Daniel Snyder. I'm not talking about organization. I'm talking about us as fans. We deserve something good to happen to us for once. We've been through a lot. Emotionally, we've been scarred. We deserve a break. Why can't this be our break? Anyway, I digress. Billy A, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Billy A, who writes, if we just need a holdover until the draft, a rookie who is ready, why not just wait for Trubisky? He'd be better. He'd be less money. What the hell is Ron doing? That's because they don't look at this as a bridge over troubled water. Okay. They don't look at this as, hey, we just need a bridge to get us to 2023. Much like they did with Ryan Fitzpatrick last year, they were hoping Fitzpatrick would be more than a one-year answer, even though he got a one-year deal. They were hoping he'd come in there, knock their socks off, lead us to the playoffs, and they say, you know what? We want Ryan Fitzpatrick again next year. They were hoping that. And, you know, just like when we traded for Alex Smith, we were hoping Alex Smith would be the long-term answer here for 5-6 years. And then the leg injury happened. They're not looking at this move as a means to an end to get another quarterback next year. Ultimately, that could happen. You know, that could ultimately be what happens. But that's not the way they're viewing this. They didn't just trade away 2 draft picks and essentially agree to eat $30 million of cap to pay Carson Wentz so that he could just get them to next year. They're looking at him as a long-term solution. They think that this guy has the ability to come in here, adapt to Scott Turner's offense, run it to perfection, and lead this team to a lot of wins and compete at a high level in a division that is up for grabs. They're not viewing this as a bridge to next year. If they were, they wouldn't have done it. They would have just, as you just said, gotten a free agent quarterback. And furthermore, if they truly think that Carson Wentz is a high-end bridge quarterback, then they'll take a quarterback in the draft. They will not be done here. That will tell you all you need to know. And trust me when I tell you, if you're going to trade for a guy and you're going to pay him $28 million, you're not looking to just get by for a year. Ultimately, like I said, that may be what happens, but that's not the goal when you make the move. The Colts didn't trade away a first-round pick last year to the Eagles and another pick. I think it was a third and then, you know, a second that could turn into a first. They didn't do that thinking they were getting Carson Wentz for a year. They did that because they thought Carson Wentz was the long-term solution and answer, which is what we think he is, which is why we traded for him. So this is what Ron's doing. Ron's desperate. Ron's desperate. You're asking me what the hell is Ron doing? He's desperate. He didn't have to do this in Carolina. So he doesn't know what it feels like to go into battle with a quarterback that's not a franchise quarterback. He didn't have to worry about this in Carolina. So he's desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures. All right. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Trevor Patch, writes, LB over here gaslighting Commander fans. Hashtag sick. Of course he is. And he should be. And you can't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. He's laughing all the way to the bank. Every Eagles fan is pointing and laughing because they think we're going to stink. They've been through this with Wentz, and they know that we're getting garbage. That's how they think in their head, and they're thinking, ain't no way we're not sweeping y'all ass again next year. He's trash. Oh, yeah. They're going to come for our necks. They're looking to step on it and squash our larynx. Crush it. I don't blame them. Okay, I don't blame them. It would be as if the Eagles, after we were done with Robert Griffin III, tossed him in the garbage can. They went and recycled him and said, hey, we think this guy could be it. We would laugh their asses off the face of the earth. That's essentially what we just did, is we took what was garbage to them. Robert Griffin III, Carson Wentz. Robert Griffin III had a rookie of the year season that we will never forget in 2012. Carson Wentz had a hell of a season in 2017 that helped the Eagles get to the Super Bowl and ultimately win it. So that stuff, that it doesn't go, you know, unnoticed, right? However, it doesn't change the fact that he flamed out in Philadelphia and they think he's ass, and he didn't prove them wrong in Indianapolis. And now he's on his third team in as many years. You're damn right he's gaslighting. And you gotta be strong enough not to fall for it. Okay. White Run Guard. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Why are people saying he sucks? Because the Colts didn't make the playoffs. And if you watch them, sometimes numbers can be misleading. Okay. There were games where he could have easily thrown 2 or 3 interceptions. There were games where he fumbled the football. There were games where he didn't make plays, where he missed open receivers that would have put games away. Now, there were also some games where he played his ass off and played well. But there were a number of games where he let them down. The Raiders game at the end of the season, the Raiders had no business coming into Indy and beating them late in the season when the Raiders got on that run, got hot, and ultimately made it to the postseason. They shouldn't have lost to the Raiders in that game. He didn't play well enough in that game. When they lost to Jacksonville in week 18, which they had no business going to Jacksonville, he laid an egg. It was a dud of a performance. He was awful. That's why they missed the playoffs. He did not play well in big spots. He didn't get it done. And so, you watch some games. They had Tampa Bay on the ropes at home, and he has an egregious turnover in the red zone as they're looking. I think he gets hit and he fumbles the football. Tampa Bay scoops it. They're going for points. They score in that possession. They are going to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These are the types of things that if you don't watch the Colts and you just look at stats, you'll say, hey, 27-7. What are you guys complaining about? It's not just the numbers. You have to watch the games. And there were times where he was outstanding and he managed the game and he didn't have to do much. And then there were times where they needed him to step up and go win them a ball game, and he was incapable of doing it. So that's why people aren't overly thrilled with this move. Look, if 27-7 was good enough, do you think Indianapolis would be looking to move on from him? That 27-7 is empty because it didn't lead to a postseason trip, and he didn't play well in some of their biggest moments. Ain't no half Stephen. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, at least this means we'll be more aggressive throwing the ball down the field and hopefully scoring more points per game. Throwing to who is a good question. This is why I don't want to make it seem like we don't have anything, because a lot of times we over exaggerate when we talk about what this team needs. We need a lot of stuff. Okay. But look at the receiver position, for instance. If Curtis Samuel, never, ever trust a man with 2 first names, is healthy, you've got Terry, you've got Curtis, you've got Diami, and they are expecting big things from Diami in year 2, as am I. Okay. You've got Dax Milne, who I like. I like what I saw out of the young fella last year. Okay. I like what I saw. He was young. He was dumb. He got thrown in the mix. And sometimes deer caught in headlights, but that's to be expected. I like what I saw out of the young fella. I like what the young boy was doing. Okay. He's going to get a bigger role this year with Adam Humphries out of the mix, right? You add one more guy to that group, I think it's complete. You add a big body receiver, a Drake London, for instance, who will be there at 11. If you love him, take him. All right. If you want to wait, a George Pickens will be available in the second round out of Georgia at 6'3" and some change that could go climb the ladder, that ran a 4.40 at the combine. There will be big receivers. Okay. A guy that he's very familiar with that went to North Dakota State. They did not play together. And Christian Watson will be available in the second round. Will he be there at 51? I don't know. However, 6'3", 208, ran a 4.3, 840 with a 40-inch vert or so. He'll be available. Maybe in the second round. Either way, I said all of that to say this. There will be options to add a guy to that mix, but that's a pretty good receiving core if you add one more receiver to the mix. It's not like he's got chump change walking around here. The tight end position is where I think we need to do some work. We got 2 guys, but it's a sandwich right now. On one end of the bread is the sesame seed bun, which is Logan Thomas, but he's coming off of an injury. At the bottom is that base bun, okay, which is John Bates. I need the meat of that tight end room to be either drafted or sought after in free agency, whether it's OJ Howard or you go get a guy in free agency or the draft, excuse me. But I need them to go get somebody athletically gifted that can come in there and help really bridge that tight end room gap. If they do that, I think we got enough stuff. You know, I want to add another running back. You know how I feel about the running back position. They can still do that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. The Great Watubi, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy writes, musical chairs, and Ron thought he would not end up with the chair, so we end up with the chair from Salvation Army. That's a great analogy. That's exactly what happened here. It was a game of musical chairs, much like last year was. If you recall, Ron swung big from Matthew Stafford. Okay, he clearly missed, right? And then the game of musical chairs was beginning, and right away when free agency got underway, we went in, we snagged the chair. Ryan Fitzpatrick got our chair. Okay, got our chair. Same thing this year. No Russell Wilson, no Aaron Rodgers, no Derek Carr, no Deshaun Watson. Hey, we're running out of chairs here. We're running out of chairs. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's Carson Wentz. It's Jameis Winston. It's Marcus Mariota. It's Mitchell Trubisky. We're running out of chairs. Let's go get Carson Wentz. That's what happens when you're desperate. Nobody ever wants to be out in the rain without an umbrella. Okay? Make sure you got an umbrella. Don't want to catch a brick. Don't want to get rained on. Chilled Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Chilled Dude, writes, Carson Wentz for 2 third-rounders. Desperate indeed. And keep in mind, that third could turn into a second. One of those thirds. Could have been worse. Arms wide open, small sliver of hope. Next dream, bye-bye Snyder, LOL. And that's where I stand is, hey, look, I get it. You're not as overly ecstatic about this move. Neither am I, okay? But similar to the Commander's name, it could have been worse. It could have been much better. We can all agree. It could have been worse. I'm kind of in the middle, right? I told you guys when they rolled out this rebrand of the Commanders, this was a C+ operation, okay? C+. This is a C+ trade. Could have been a hell of a lot better had you gotten Russell Wilson. He didn't want us. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. You could have ended up with Jimmy Garoppolo or Mitchell Trubisky or Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston or Teddy Bridgewater. It could have been a hell of a lot worse. So we'll see. Now, to that degree, if you want to make an argument for the other side, you could say, hey, I would have much rather taken my chances with one of those free agents and one of these quarterbacks in the draft. My biggest fear, and I said this to you guys, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago, and I've been repeating it ever since. My biggest fear was that we would draft a quarterback this year, and much like Dwayne Haskins in 2019, he would do just enough for us to say, hey, I want to see more of that. We don't need a quarterback in 2020. And again, hindsight is definitely 2020 vision because I didn't want Justin Herbert. And most of you didn't either. I was drooling over Joe Burrow, but I knew we weren't going to get him. Cincinnati wasn't going to pass him up. I was praying that they would want the Cincinnati, the Ohio State kid to keep him local, and they would go in that direction. But they said, hey, Joe Burrow's a local kid. We'll just take him instead. It was the right move, as clearly as we see. So, revisionist history is easy. Yeah, we should have taken Justin Herbert second overall. We didn't want him at number 2, and clearly we had a quarterback that we were intrigued by, I wanted to see more from in Dwayne Haskins. That was my biggest fear, is that if we drafted one of these young boys and he got in the final 6 games of the season or so, and he showed us flashes, it would be enough to say, hey, we good on the 2023 crop of quarterbacks. We're going to stick with this dude and see what he's about. Now, this is a one and done scenario for Carson Wentz. Hey, bro, either you show us this year or deuces. We're going to get one of these boys in the 2023 draft. And Wentz is under contract, so we don't have to get rid of him like the Colts got rid of him. But I don't know what the contract looks like next year. You know, if the number balloons, this, that, or is there an exit ramp? As you get deeper into contracts, usually there are exit ramps. So I would assume that there's an exit ramp coming next year. I can't confirm nor deny that, but I would assume that there's an exit ramp. And they traded for him knowing that if he didn't work out, they could get out of it. But if he did, they got a quarterback under contract for another 3 years at an affordable rate. We'll see what happens. Got a super chat here from Chilled Dude. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Chilled Dude, who writes, need to pick up Bobby Wagner. Man is a beast. I wouldn't be mad if they did that, especially if you're in win now mode, which Ron clearly is in. There's nothing wrong with infusing a few veterans on a team that's very, very young. We're one of the youngest teams in the NFL right now. There's nothing wrong with infusing a few veterans on a young team. We've been rumored to be really interested in the Honey Badger. Don't know how accurate that is, or if he's even willing to come here, right? But we've been rumored to want to add him to our secondary. He's a veteran player, approaching the 30 mark. And we know how it is in the NFL once you hit 30. Well, Bobby Wagner, if he's not already 30, is approaching 30 or past 30 years old, but he's still playing at a very high level. So we'll see. I wouldn't be opposed to Bobby Wagner, but I'd much rather get my own young guy in the draft personally. So I don't know if Bobby Wagner will be a hot commodity soon as free agency starts. Generally, that's reserved for the young boys, the young pups. Usually the veterans are made to wait. And if that's the case with Bobby Wagner, you wait until after the draft. You don't get a guy, then Bobby Wagner's sitting there, you go get him. So let's hope that happens, right? Let's hope that Bobby Wagner isn't scooped up by some desperate team in the first 2 weeks of free agency. He just is allowed to sit there and simmer down now, simmer down. And then the draft comes, the draft goes. Either we got ourselves who we view as our future middle linebacker, or we don't. And Bobby Wagner's sitting there, and you sign him up. So we'll see what happens. Jack Curry, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Jack Curry, writes, feels like a panic move, but I don't hate it. Let us draft best available at 11, possible receiver. If not, trade back, get capital for next year. All of that is on the table. I think now more than ever before, trading back is a real possibility. I did not think that was a possibility when quarterback was still on the table. I think it's a real possibility now that you've given up draft capital this year and next year. Now that you don't have a third round pick, now that you don't have a third next year, potentially don't have a second next year, trading back isn't the worst thing in the world to pick up more capital for potential, draft capital for next year. That said, I still think when you're at 11, when you're sitting on the fringe of the top 10, you're in a position to get spillage, to have spillage reach you, and you can't turn that down. Like a guy like Derek Stingley Jr. could be sitting there at 11, and if you love him, again, he's another one of those dudes. It's a weird evaluation because you go back to 2019, his freshman year, there was nobody better in the nation defensively, period. Chase Young, I don't give a shit. He was the best corner by miles. And I would argue with anybody, the best defensive player in college football in 2019. And then injuries and COVID, and he just never was the same after those, that first year. But we know it's there. We know he has that ability. Can you pass that up? I don't know. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying it's going to be some spillage. It's going to be a guy there that you just absolutely love that you're like, hey, we can't pass this dude up. You know, for all of you Nakobe Dean fans out there, he's going to run at the Georgia Pro Day. He might light it up. He's an instinctual linebacker. I can tell you that. I know he's instinctual. Can he run is the question. He will be there at 11. Can you pass that up? So I don't know if trading back is really smart because you got a chance to get a blue chipper at 11. Now, we said this already, and this is where saying it and acting on it are two different things. If you really truly mean it, this is where it comes into play. If this is really truly, quote unquote, one of the deepest drafts in NFL history, then the difference between what you're getting at 11 and say trading back to 19, minuscule. I love the guy at 11 just like I love the guy I'm getting at 19 because it's such a deep draft class. Don't confuse quality for quantity, though. All right, let me say that again. Don't confuse quantity for quality. All right. Just because it's deep doesn't mean that it's talent heavy at the top and throughout. You might have a ton of receivers in this draft class, but there are only 5 that are elite caliber guys that can come in and have a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type of impact. Yeah, it's deep. And you might get a guy in the second round that comes in and plays really well, like Michael Pittman Jr. And you take that if you're Washington. You take a Michael Pittman Jr. You know? You take a guy like that, you know, what was the kid out of Clemson that went to the Bengals? T. Higgins. You take one of those guys in the second round. Now, both of those guys were like literally first pick of the second round type of receivers. That was spillage from the first round. But you take a guy like that. But those guys aren't going to end up being Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. And that's what we have a chance to take at 11. So, but you can still potentially get that at 19, right? Like, I love Chris Olave. I really do. I think you can get him at 11, but I think you could also get him trading back to 16. Like, you can't trade too far back. Somebody's going to fall in love. The Eagles, to me, if you want a guy like Chris Olave, you can't trade behind the Eagles 2 picks because they're going to take a guy like Chris Olave or one of these elite receivers with one of those picks. They're going to pair Devontae Smith with another one of these studs because Jalen Reagor ain't it, and they figured it out already. So if you want one of these elite boys, you're probably going to have to stay in front of Philadelphia. So trading back, you got to be careful with that. Anyway, I digress. Redneck Rocker 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, are we going to have any money left after his deal? Of course we are, man. We're strapped, man. We got tons of cash. All right. We ain't hurting. We strapped with cash, not strapped for cash. Okay. We good, man. I mean, this is why Washington could be aggressive like this because there was no situation that was going to break us. We got money. And if we need more money, we can go to Landon Collins and say, take a pay cut or we cutting you. Like we got more avenues we can pursue to free up more free agent dollars if we need to, and we don't. All right. Brandon Sheriff's $16 or $18 million, whatever it was, like that shit's coming off the books. Like we got money everywhere. You know, we're good. And the cap's going up to 208. We're fine. Trust me. Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Big Money Sonny, who writes, if Wentz isn't fired up about this, which would be understandable because no one wanted to come here, he will be labeled a journeyman and his legacy is cooked. Let's get it, Lou, and let's go get Wagner. He's got to be elated to come here because, for one, you always want to be somewhere where you're wanted. Clearly, he was not wanted in Indy any longer, right? So Washington trades for you, which means they want you. You may not have been their first choice. You weren't their second choice, probably weren't their third choice, but here we are. They wanted you. They traded for you. And he has to understand if he's got any self-awareness, which I think was one of the knocks on him in Philadelphia, was he wasn't always self-aware. I think he started to wake up as he got to Indy, however, and he was a lot more self-aware, which is why we didn't hear any issues with him being a cancer in the locker room. If he's self-aware, he understands that this is it. You don't get another opportunity to be the unquestioned starter if this doesn't work out for you. This is it. This is the end of the line for you if you're Carson Wentz. So I think he's going to be elated to be here in Washington. As far as Bobby Wagner's concerned, I wouldn't be mad if they did that. I wouldn't be mad at all. Washington sideline. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes Stingy or Sauce at 11 and see if we can't get Coop. So Sauce is gone at 11. You know, all the hype surrounding him has catapulted him into a top 10 pick. He's gone, long gone by the time we get to 11. There's a chance that Stingy is there, though. Derek Stingley Jr. is there. And I think he will be there, you know, with all the injuries and things that he's done. He's a really tricky eval for a lot of people because you got to go back to 19 to see the best of Derek Stingley. Still, someone's going to take him really, you know, relatively high in this draft. He'll be there at 11, however. So we'll see what happens. And I don't want any parts of Amari Cooper. I didn't want him when we went after him the first time. I don't want him now. So I'm not on board with you there. I'm not co-signing going after Amari Cooper. I don't want him. All right. Jason Files, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Jason Files. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, writes. Wentz always played good in Washington, LOL. Shaking my head. Year one, he says 1 year rental to see what he has left. No downside. The only downside to making this move is you're completely passing on the quarterback crop this year, which if you listen to a lot of people, that's not a bad thing, right? But I said this, I really truly believe one of these guys is going to turn into a really good NFL starting caliber quarterback. So you're passing on the potential of getting one of those guys. Also, you are investing in him, you know, a good amount of money, but I never worry about the money aspect when it's not long term. Like when you're not tied to a guy long term. That was the problem with the Alex Smith deal. Not only did we trade for him and we gave away Kendall Fuller, which pissed a lot of us off, you then ripped up his contract and gave him new money, and you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. And that's what pissed everybody off, because once he got injured, you were on the hook for that money. That's not what we're doing here. So it's limited downside. If he stinks, you just go back and you go after the quarterback position again next year. But there is a slight downside. But it's not, you know, that's why I don't hate this move, right? That's why I don't hate this. Indigenous Brother, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Indigenous Brother writes, where the gun at, Lou? Where the gun at, Lou? I'm ready to pull this damn trigger. Don't do it. Don't do it. He said, my team's new nickname is Can't Get Right. I'd rather gamble on a rookie and save the cap. Rip DC. So again, the reason I'd rather go this route than the rookie route is because you've got a 1 in 6 chance. All right. So less than 20% chance of hitting on a quarterback, because to me, there are only 6 quarterbacks in this draft class worth even mentioning. All right. Cody Pickett, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder, Carson Strong, Sam Howell, and Malik Willis. Those are the 6. So you got a 1 in 6 chance at hitting. Now, multiple quarterbacks could end up turning out good in this draft class, but I think one of them is out of the 6 is going to turn out to be good. If one of those guys shows you a little something, it may force you to pass on the quarterback crop that is going to be epic next year. So why put yourself in a position to maybe pass on what could be what you ultimately need with a rookie that ultimately isn't the answer, when you can just go with Wentz and it's either you knock it out of the park, like he can't hit a double. and expect us to not look for a quarterback next year. He hit a double with the Colts last year, and it wasn't good enough to get him into the postseason, and they were like, hey, you got to go. You know, he's got to hit a home run. I don't even know of a triple down the line that he legs out and then slides head first into third base and then calls for time from the ump. I don't even know if that's good enough to get him back on the roster next year and stop us from drafting the quarterback. He's got to hit a no doubt. I'm talking about when you hit it, you pimp that bitch. Pop! Flip the bat, and then you watching that bitch. And then you got a slow stroll around the bases, the kind that gets your ass plunked the next time you come up to the plate because you was so damn ignorant with it. That's how he's got to hit this shit out of the park. And if he doesn't, I think we're looking for a quarterback next year. So I don't pull the trigger. This was a calculated risk. It's a calculated risk. Thank you for the super chat, Indigenous brother. Got another super chat here from Chris Wilson. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Chris writes, he went 27-7, surround him with weapons. Yeah, again, that 27/7 has a backstory to it. You know, it's not just a 27/7 where you just, oh, those numbers are excellent. There's a backstory to it. Every touchdown over interception ratio and statistic has a story to it. Everyone does. Zach LaRoche, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Zach. Hey, remember, I'm not jumping off the bandwagon. It's still Ron's plan. Ron's plan. I ain't going nowhere. It's still Ron's plan. A lot of y'all jumped ship long time ago. Okay? It's still Ron's plan. Ron's plan. Okay? Zach says, Saul, we can cut him after this year with no dead cap if we want. If they think he's at worst a bridge to a better QB class, maybe it's an okay move. This is why I don't hate this. This is why I told you guys I don't love it because of what Wentz's history has been, but I don't hate it because it's, to me, a calculated risk that doesn't have a tremendous downside. Okay? Yeah, you don't want to give up the draft capital, you know, and no, you don't want to give up 30 million, but we got it. We're good for it. We're not hurting by giving up 23 in base and 5 in a guaranteed roster bonus at the start of the new league year. We're not hurting. We're good. We're good for it. This isn't going to affect Terry getting his bread or them extending Cole Holcomb if they so choose, or going after Deron Payne or Montez Sweat and extend. It's not going to affect any of that. Not short term, not long term. We're fine. If he doesn't work, you get out. Which is why they made the trade. If he's good, hey, we got something here. We're no longer in the wilderness. This is why you may not love this, but you shouldn't despise it to the point where, as the indigenous brother just said, he's ready to pull the trigger. You shouldn't be at that point. It's not that bad. Had this been Jimmy Garoppolo, I would have said, hey, I'll provide you with the firearm. I will provide you with the firearm. You need your own bullets, your own ammunition. I will provide you with a clean, no bodies, no body count, a clean firearm for you to do whatever you wish with it. Won't do that with Carson Wentz. Thank you for the super chat, Zach LaRoche. Chilled Dude, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chilled Dude, writes, need to get him Evan Ingram, use him as a hybrid wide receiver tight end. And if you guys have read the reports, a lot of people view Evan Ingram as a wide receiver. To me, that would be the stupidest thing anybody could do with Evan Ingram, because you take away the mismatch. Keep him as a tight end. He's fast as shit. Get him lined up with a linebacker or a safety and let him smoke that dude's ass. You make him a receiver and they'll put a corner out there. It changes the dynamics of the situation. No, he may not be a great blocker and this, that, but that's the mismatch. Him on a linebacker, him on a safety. Don't take away the mismatch. T Wood TV. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. T Wood TV writes, we have $33 million of cap space and Carson will account for $28 million. So what do we do in free agency with this little bit of money? Trust me, it's not what you think, okay? When you hear about what a guy's going to count against the cap and when you hear about the amount of cap space you have, the cap is going up. So the amount of cap space that we will have to work with when the new league year hits, the cap will increase. We're dealing with $33 million of cap space right now. That will elevate. It was what, 182 or something like that? It's going up to 208. So it will increase the cap. But also, again, other guys' deals are coming off the books. Washington will be fine when it comes to cap space. Okay? Fine when it comes to cap space. If you sign Terry to a lucrative deal, guess what? His first year, they can make it so that his first year, his base salary is $2 million. Gets a ton of money in signing bonuses and roster bonuses, and his base is $2 million. Okay? Like, there's a way to play with the money. Look, don't worry. Look, let me remind you. Don't worry unless it's long-term ramifications. Okay? Don't worry about the cap. Don't worry about the cap. We're fine. And he's not counting $28 million. I think it's base 22 or 23. And there's a $5 million roster bonus. I think. Don't quote me on that. But I don't think it's a base 28. But either way, we're fine cap space wise. Don't worry your pretty little head about our cap space. We've got plenty of it. Remember, if we were going after Rodgers or Wilson, we would have been dealing with the same issue and we would have had to pay more money. Okay? We'll be fine. Okay? We'll be fine. Dion Draper, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dion writes, this can go really, really bad or kind of aight. Again, if it goes really, really bad, Taylor Heineke will be in and play the bulk of the season like he did last year. But, you know, we'd be looking for a quarterback. We'd be back in the same spot we were in last year if it goes really, really bad. If it goes kind of aight, we're hovering around the playoffs. We may not make it, but we'll be hovering around the playoffs. That's how it went in Indy, and they kicked his ass out of town. It went kind of aight. It was good enough to get him in the mix, but it wasn't good enough to get him in the playoffs. Now, I can tell you this. His play for the Colts last year and what he led them to record-wise would have been good enough to get us in the playoffs in the NFC, okay? So let's make that distinction right now. The NFC is not the AFC. It's the wild, wild West out there. I mean, if you don't got one of these big boy quarterbacks and you come with your slow-ass six-shooter, you take your 3 paces, you turn around, you got 5 holes in your ass already. Pop, 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 pop. You done already got shot. Because it's Josh Allen, it's Joe Burrow, it's Justin Herbert, it's Russell Wilson, it's Patrick Mahomes. Like, it on and on. The list goes on and on and on and on. That's not how it looks out here in the East, okay? Out here in the NFC, man, it's Aaron Rodgers. That's it. I mean, that's it. You want to count Dak Prescott? Go right ahead. Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers. That's pretty much it. So, if it goes kind of aight, we might end up in the playoffs. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Trevor Patch writes, Ron just gave M. Parsons a gold jacket versus Wentz. That could be the case. That what we need to do is learn how to block number 11. Okay, we have to account for number 11. We did a very poor job of it this season. We have to account for number 11. Do a much better job of it. The Bat, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. The Bat writes, surround him with weapons and he's good. He had nothing in Philly in his last year and really not much in Indy. I agree. You are 110% spot on. And I've already acknowledged that and I've already mentioned it. And I think it's very, very true. And there's a lot of validity to that. I think you have to add more weapons around Carson Wentz. And the thing I love about Wentz is he's proven that he can do a lot with a little. So what can he do when you give him a lot? Because he hasn't really had that in his career. He's proven that he can do a lot with little. Can he do a lot more with a lot? Is the question. Is there a cap? We'll see. I agree with you, Debat. Thank you for the super chat, Chilled Dude. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Wentz was best bad option of QBs available. I have mixed feelings. He played well until the last 3 games. I guess that's something. Love you, Lou. Love you too, Chilled Dude. And again, I think that's accurate. And I think my guy Big Money Sonny said as much. When you're sorting through the garbage, and I don't want to call Carson Wentz garbage because I don't feel like he's garbage. I do feel, however, he was in a yard sale, right? You're driving by, and there's a big ass sign that says, "Hey, yard sale right down this street," and you're like, "Shit, it's a yard sale. Let me see what they got." And you stop in, and Carson Wentz is on the table, and you're like, "Yo, how much for this right here?" I'll let it go for a couple of 3rd-round picks. Okay, cool. I'll take it. Like, at this point, he's not garbage. They weren't giving him away. But at the same time, it didn't cost a lot. It didn't cost a lot. Johnny Boy, 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I'm okay with this trade for 2 3rd-round picks for a starting quarterback. He can consistently push the ball down the field with the personnel that we have. The speed around him, he can take advantage of. I don't disagree with you. Like, he's definitely a guy that will not be afraid to push the football down the field. Okay. Which that's been a problem in Washington at times, is not enough chunk plays. I think he will be a guy that will take advantage of some opportunities if afforded to him. We've got to do a good job of protecting him. Right. Wentz is a guy that can extend, can escape, but he also will take some foolish sacks, turn it over, fumble, things of that nature, do some dumb things, left-handed type. He's a left-handed pick guy. He'll do stupid shit like that. All right. So we have to protect him from himself at times. So if we can protect him, keep him upright, there could be some upside here. Right. I mean, we can all acknowledge that. So I think that's why I think it's imperative that we add more to the weaponry around him. That's why I think we add another receiver, another tight end. And I think the cipher is complete. To me, I would like to add a receiver, tight end, and a running back. But that's just me. But if you do that, I think the cipher is complete offensively. And you still have to add a guard. Remember, we're getting rid of Brandon Sheriff and letting him walk. You got to add another guard to the mix, whether that's via free agency or the draft. That's up to you. But you got to add another guy. So, to me, when you look at our team, let's say we have 7 draft picks this year. Running back, tight end, and again, this is assuming that we don't get any of these positions in free agency. But in no particular order: guard, running back, wide receiver, tight end, cornerback, nickel, specifically a nickel back, and safety and linebacker. That's what I need. 7 guys, 7 positions, 7 players. You can get it in free agency, in the draft. You can do whatever you like. You can do whatever you like. Yeah, but that's what I think we need. And I've given you the order already in a previous video. The number one thing on our agenda this offseason was figure out the quarterback position. For at least 1 year, we've done that now. The second thing on my list was we need to figure out middle linebacker. Bobby Wagner's out there, as a lot of you have mentioned. I still would prefer to get a young boy in the draft. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. All right. So who wants cake and just let it sit there? I never understood that expression. Hey, you want your cake and eat it too. Yeah, duh. That's why I want cake. I don't want a slice of cake just to stare at it. I want to eat it. So for me, I would much rather have Bobby Wagner sitting there waiting come June, right? After the draft has commenced and we didn't get a guy that we love, all right, let's go sign Bobby Wagner. I don't want to have to sign Bobby Wagner before the draft. I'd like to sign him afterwards. Anyway, I digress. B. Smitty, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, B. Smitty, writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, B. Smitty, who writes, is Bobby Wagner washed up or should we make a move? He's still got good football left in him. Is he the elite linebacker that he once was 3-4 years ago? No, but he's still a tackling machine. He still knows where to go. He can still sniff out what the offense is trying to do. And if you put him behind this vaunted defensive line, air quotes, he should be able to roam free and make a bunch of plays. That's the assumption, right? Which is why I want to go get a young boy with some speed. We'll see. Washington football fan WGIL, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, on the bright side, tickets and merch will be $4 a pair. No, so all right, fans aren't going to jump off of the bandwagon that quickly. This is not going to increase fanfare, however. You're not going to get a lot of people excited about this. But if you were on the fence about the team, this could go one of two ways. It could push you over the top and you say, I'm not going. Or you say, hey, I want to see how this goes. But either way, I can tell you that last year's excitement is gone. And so now the question becomes, can Carson Wentz bring some of that back? You get off to a fast start. He plays well. The offense looks sharp. And all of a sudden, people are getting excited again. We'll see. The only thing that's going to change anything, is I've said a million times, is winning. It's really simple. You know, nothing's changed. Plato Rail, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Plato Rail writes, better option than the rooks and the free agents that were available. He says 27 and 7 with bums at tight end and wide receivers. Not all of his receivers were garbage. Now, Michael Pittman is a stud. I like him a lot. And Mo Alley Cox isn't a bum at tight end. He's not great, but he's very serviceable. He says fragile? Yes. Worst case scenario, we're going after a young QB next offseason. But honestly, Burks at 11 or Stingley would be great. And those options, they do exist. And Burks will be there. I think Stingley will be there at 11. I think both of the Ohio State receivers are there. Well, I know the one of the Ohio State receivers is there in Olave. I don't know if Garrett Wilson is still there, but you'll have almost the pick of the litter at the receiver position. I don't see a bunch of top 10 receivers being taken. So you'll have the pick of the litter essentially at the receiver position if you so choose. And again, you don't have to do it at 11 because it's a deep class of receivers. You could wait to the second round. Now, it gets a little dicier now that you've swapped second rounders with Indy. I would feel a lot more comfortable waiting to the second round when you're sitting there with the 41st pick in the second round, or the 42nd or 43rd pick versus the 51st or 52nd or 53rd pick in the second round. It changes a little bit because a lot of times big time receivers that spill over to the second round, they go quick, as we saw with Michael Pittman and T. Higgins. They go like that. So we'll see what happens. Captain Flarbnard. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Captain Flarbnard, who writes, isn't this the same guy who we sacked 8 times? Shaking my head. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And that's why I said we have to protect him, because he is a guy that will take sacks. He is a guy that will turn it over, that will make mistakes when pressured. So we have to, it is not optional. It is mandatory that we protect Carson Wentz. Philly 500. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. who writes, congrats on getting the North Dakota assassin. If you get good Carson, it could work out. I would take him over Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm in the same boat. I'd much rather have Carson Wentz than Jimmy Garoppolo any day of the week, twice on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, and some Saturdays. So we're in agreement there. And you're right. This guy, if we get the good Carson, look out, right? But again, in order to find the good Carson, you got to go all the way back to 2018, essentially. That's a long time, man. Or 2019, excuse me. Got to go all the way back to 2019. It's a long time, man. It's a long time. So anyway, we'll see. Mr. Ron B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Ron B. writes, man, this feels like they settled in making plans to draft another QB in 2023. A disappointing outcome for sure. Mr. Ron B., I'm here to tell you, this is what happens when, as somebody put it earlier, you get caught in a game of musical chairs and the chairs are starting to run out. And honestly, Washington did not want to go into free agency looking for a quarterback because that essentially puts you in the same spot you were in last year. If you don't get a quarterback that you traded for, you feel like we're going out and getting Ryan Fitzpatrick all over again. And who wants to do that? So I think in their minds, they had to do something. And you can't promise that you're going to make something happen and then do nothing. So this was Ron's way of saying, hey, I told you I was going to swing for the fences. I swung. I missed on Rodgers. I missed on Wilson. I missed on Carr. But we got Carson Wentz. I told you I was going to get something. You may not like it, but I told you I was coming away with something. I won't come away empty-handed again. Northeast Landlord. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Northeast Landlord writes, this was a slap in the face to the fan base. I don't take it as such. And again, I told you guys that Ron was doing himself a disservice by putting the batteries in the backs of a lot of the fan base out there by telling them we're going to be aggressive going after a quarterback, because he put himself in a box and he boxed himself into a corner. He put himself in a box, and then that box then got slid all the way into the corner. And he had no choice. He was backed into a corner with his own words and his own aggressive campaign this offseason. It put him in a place where he had to do something like this, because you would have been even more upset if it was Mitchell Trubisky or Marcus Mariota and Carson Strong, which it wouldn't have been. It would have been a mobile quarterback. But you'd have been pissed off. You could say, no, I would have rather done that. No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have, because that probably was going to lead to nowhere. This may ultimately lead to nowhere, but you don't know that for sure. And I can't say that the other option would lead to nowhere. I can't say that for sure either. But the likelihood is that the other option was going to lead to nowhere, more so than this one. Because as a lot of you have put it, 27-7. The Colts won 10 games last year. It's not like the Colts were chopped liver. They got caught up in a numbers game in a rough, tough, and rugged AFC conference. They got caught up in a numbers game. If he brings that same 10-7 over here to the NFC, hey, we going to the playoffs. We going to the playoffs. If he goes 27-7, we going to the playoffs. Okay? Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Trev writes, where's Ryan Vermillion? We need Wentz on the juice. I can't with you, Trev. I cannot. I'm done with you, Trev. I'm done with you, man. Gear Cell 1. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Gearson One writes, I've tried to tell y'all, you, Ron, and both misses are wearing polyester turtlenecks with a reverse zipper and Leroy Green Timberlands with a swag gold chain. Tragic. Desperate trade indeed. Peace. I still think Ron is sporting a nice Washington Commanders polo that is covered by his Washington Commanders Letterman jacket with a nice pair of blue jeans, denim, and a nice pair of comfortable shoes. Okay, I'm not putting him in any tragic gear yet. It's still Ron's plan. Ron's plan. I'm not giving up. And I hope I get to say I told you so, one day. I hope I get to say that. Some of you out there who have already jumped ship, you may be right. Ron may stink, and we may ultimately have to go in a different direction, 2-3 years down the road. But I'm not giving up. Ron is my guy, and I'm gonna stick this thing out because he's trying, guys. He's trying. He was dealt he got a raw deal when he showed up here. He didn't know what he was getting himself into. He really, truly did. He came to a place where guys get chewed up and spit out. Mike Shanahan is a 2-time Super Bowl winning coach. He came here and got chewed the hell up and spit out. Joe Gibbs didn't know if he was coming or going when he left the second time. These are Hall of Fame coaches we're talking about here. Look, man, Ron got here and realized quickly, shit, I'm in way over my head. This is way more than what I bargained for. He's trying to do the best with the hand he was dealt. Nobody wants to come here. Not at the quarterback position, at least. So he's trying. And you know what? I'll never fault a man for trying. I'll never fault any individual for giving me the best they've got. When you go and need a baker and you giving you the best that I've got, baby. When you give me the best that you've got, I can't be mad. I can be mad at the outcome, but I can't be mad at the effort. He's trying, man. He's trying. I can't be mad at that. Never stop trying. When you're trying to find a quarterback, never stop trying. You don't have to love this. And I'm not telling you to love this, but you shouldn't hate it either. Holla at Yemi. Holla at your boy Yemi. What's good? Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, name a QB we've had in the last 5 years better than Wentz. Who is Kirk Cousins? If you're talking going back 5 years to 2016, Kirk Cousins that should have made the playoffs, but we missed a bunch of field goals, and Matt Jones, Matt Jones fumbled the ball at Detroit, and D-Hop missed a chip shot field goal in overtime against the Bengals, and yeah, I take that Kirk Cousins over Carson Wentz. But if you're pushing me out to 2017, if you're looking at it from 5 years from the actual 2022 going back to 2017, the answer is nobody. If you're telling me we're going from the 2021 season, which just passed 5 years ago, to 2016, give me Kirk Cousins. Thank you for the super chat. Holla at Yemi. I know what you were trying to do there, though, and you're not wrong. Lorenzo Simpson, my guy Zoe, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Zoe. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Zoe writes, I understand he was bad against Jacksonville, but look at his numbers. People are acting like we traded for Blake Bortles. Yeah, Zoe. So again, there's context to every statistic that you see. There's context to it. So I don't hate 27/7. You know, I don't hate that. I look at that, and it's right on par with the 30/8 season that he turned in 2019 when they made the playoffs and he got hurt against Seattle in the first round and the divisional round when Jadeveon Clowney knocked him out of the game. It's on par with that. Similar weapons, too. That 2019 year that he took them to the playoffs, they were ass-tastic, were the Eagles offensively. And he still got it done. So I don't hate 27/7. But again, when I break down draft prospects, we go inside the numbers because there's always more to the story than just the numbers that you're looking at. And that's the case with Carson Wentz, too. You know, there were some really bad turnovers throughout the course of the season, some back-breaking mistakes that really hurt them. And there was some poor play at times that really hurt this team and prevented them from making the postseason. So, yeah, those numbers aren't terrible. They're actually rather good. But again, within the context and the working framework of the season, you know that it could have been better and he could have done more. Thank you for the super chat, Lorenzo Simpson. Got another one here from Big Money Sonny. Thank you for the super chat, Big Money Sonny. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Wentz equals Jeff George 2.0. I'm with you. I don't like it, but I don't hate it either. I'm going to stay at a 5, but optimistic. Let's get it, Lou. I think Jeff George 2.0 is a little harsh. I think that's a little harsh. Jeff George was a cancer everywhere he went. Everywhere. Okay. Nobody liked Jeff George. And Jeff George was a hell of a talent throwing the football, but he was not an athlete. And I don't think there was ever a season in which Jeff George was looked at as a potential MVP candidate. He had some good seasons, you know, early in his career with Indy and, you know, in Atlanta at one point, and he was a journeyman quarterback. There was a good season in there in Minnesota, but he never was viewed as an MVP candidate, which Wentz was on his well on his way to being in 2017 before he got injured. So, yeah, I think that that's a little harsh. All right, let's see. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Big Money Sonny writes, let's go get Wagner and become nasty on defense. I don't know if Bobby Wagner just makes you nasty on defense. He's a total upgrade over anything we've put out on the field at middle linebacker in the last 7 years. Whenever the last time we had London Fletcher on the field, London Flector on the field is the last time we had a credible middle linebacker. So, yeah, he's an upgrade clearly over that glob of mayo that we had on the field and John Boombastic. So I'd take him in a heartbeat. But again, I want to go sniffing around the young boys first before I settle in on Bobby Wagner. And again, you may not have that liberty to do that. You may have to get him early because other teams may be interested in Bobby Wagner. To me, when you get a veteran like Wagner, just wait. I'm like telling the rest of the league, just chill, just wait, man. Wait till after the draft. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, though. Marcus Dixon, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Marcus writes, I imagine Wentz will do okay and y'all will go like 8-9, 9-8, miss the playoffs and draft at like 16 in 2023 year's draft. Thoughts, worst case scenario? I don't think you're wrong. You know, I think if Wentz is relatively healthy throughout the year, that's where we're going to finish, somewhere in that 7-10 to 10-7 neighborhood, right? Same as what we thought the ceiling and floor was for last year's season with Ryan Fitzpatrick. However, I think the ceiling could be even higher if you get Wentz from 2017 or 18 or even 19. You get that Carson Wentz, then the ceiling isn't 10 wins, it's 12. So because we know what he's capable of when he's playing at his highest of highs. So I think there is a little bit more optimism if you get good Carson, right? The problem with what you just said, which is 110% spot on and big facts, is that if he's just average, we're picking 16th, 17th, which means you're going to have to give up draft capital to go up and get a guy. And this is always the issue when you've got a coach like Ron Rivera who he's not going to lose 14, 15 games. He's not going to do that. It's not in his DNA. You're not going 3-14. You're not going 2-15. You're not going 4-13. I don't give a shit who's that quarterback. All right. And the schedule that we played last year, this schedule this year, I don't give a shit how good the teams are. And if we underestimate a team here, it pales in comparison to what we were looking at from a quarterback standpoint. Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Russell Wilson. We played all those quarterbacks last year. We won't have to do that this year. So, and Matt Ryan. So, to me, there's just no way we're not winning 7 games at least, which will put you in the middle of the first round. But again, I don't really give a shit where we finish. If we don't get if Carson Wentz doesn't knock it out of the park, you got to do whatever you got to do to get up there to get a quarterback. I don't care if you got to give up 2 number 1s and 2 2s to get up to number 2. Do it. We're at that point now. So I don't really focus on that too much, because if you're desperate and you want a guy bad enough, you'll do whatever it takes to get him. We wanted Russell Wilson. We were willing to give up 3 1s. Okay. We wanted him bad enough. If you want one of these young boys at the quarterback position next year because Wentz doesn't work out this year, and you want him bad enough, you'll give up what it takes. David, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy David writes, pathetic. All in for a top QB, question mark. Laughing my mother effing ass off. This franchise disappoints me every year. Again, you were one of the people out there that had high hopes, that allowed Ron to psych you up, allowed Kevin Sheehan to get you excited when Russell Wilson was quote unquote willing to consider Washington. You were one of the people that fell for the banana in the tailpipe. And I told you yesterday, I felt sorry for those of you out there that allowed someone, whether it was Ron or someone else out there, to put batteries in your back to get excited about this offseason and the prospects of us getting a quarterback. For a second, you forgot that we are the Washington Commanders. And you had to get a cold dose of reality splashed on your face. And that happened yesterday when Russell Wilson essentially said, Washington? Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll go to Denver instead. That's where we are. And don't you forget it. And some of y'all needed that cold, hard dose of reality. So if you were excited about possibly getting Rodgers or Wilson or Watson or Carr, then yeah, this is going to really piss you off. But if you were a realist and you listened to Ron when he told you, hey, we probably going to end up with a veteran and a rookie, which he was telling you, I'm not getting Rodgers or Wilson. I'm going to try, but I'm probably not going to end up with either one of those guys. Then you would have already lowered expectations and you wouldn't be feeling as much animus as you feel right now. But look, at the end of the day, let me reiterate my stance, and I can't tell you how to feel, but honestly, you shouldn't be that upset. I'm not telling you to love this because I don't even love this, but you shouldn't hate this. Okay? You shouldn't hate this because your alternative wasn't going to be better than this. Again, that doesn't make it great. That doesn't make it something that you should be celebrating. It just means you did the best that you could with the circumstances and the situation that was put in front of you. Rodgers doesn't want you. Wilson doesn't want you. Watson doesn't want you. Carr isn't leaving his destination. Do you want Jimmy Garoppolo? Did you really want Jimmy Garoppolo? Because that, if we didn't get Wentz, that's probably where we would have gone next. Did you really want to do that? I damn sure didn't. Thank you for the super chat, David. Hoodie Quays, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Hoodie Quays writes, Louie, we need weapons now. Garrett pick at number 11 and George Pickens in the second round or tight end in the second. Also, I don't think Wentz played bad just the last game. It was more than just the last game. However, they're not picking two receivers. You get one receiver and you're going to be told to like it. We took two receivers in the draft last year. They're not doing it again. We'd be lucky to get one because if they bring back Cam Sims, they might not draft, not nail wide receiver. You know, I'm hoping they don't bring back Cam Sims so that it forces them to have a void at receiver that they have to fill with another receiver. But if they bring back Cam Sims, they may think, oh, we straight. We getting Curtis Samuel back. De'Ami Brown's going to be better. Dax Mills going to be better. Cam Sims, we really like him. No, we straight. No, you're not. No, you're not. And no, you're not. And I hope they understand that. That's where the delusion piece. Remember, I talked about delusion and desperation. This is the desperation. The delusion may come down the road if if we're not aggressive in certain aspects of our roster. That's when the delusion sets in. They really think that we're straight, that they can just run it back with a lot of the dudes that we had last year and we'll be fine. We just need to get healthy. Michael Miller, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Michael Miller writes, I'm excited for this trade as I would be if I took a dump on myself. Why do we always put a Band-Aid over the problem instead of just fully fixing it? Ready to take command of these L's. Look, if you're going to laugh, at least do it so that you stop yourself from crying, which is what Michael Miller just did. I love the humor. That was funny. And I know where you're coming from. I know how you feel. It's not as bad as you think, though. Okay, it's not as bad as you think. But you're right. We have been the champions of trying to put a Band-Aid over a problem that needs surgery. But this is the best you could do. Again, you could be pissed off about this move if this draft class was loaded at the quarterback position and we did this instead. Yeah, get pissed off. I'm grabbing a pitchfork and a torch and I'm ready to lead the charge. But this is a lackluster group of quarterbacks. They had ample opportunities to go out and wow scouts and GMs, team presidents and coaches at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine, and they haven't done it. You want to know why all these teams went out and franchise tagged these tight ends? Because they weren't impressed with them at the Senior Bowl or the Combine. You want to know why teams are like, yeah, I think I'm going to start jockeying for position at the quarterback position. You want to know why the Broncos went out and got Russell Wilson? They don't do that with the 9th pick. You don't do that if you think there's a quarterback worth selecting. But there isn't. So you go and get aggressive to go get a guy that can put you over the top. That's what we did. We went and got a guy that we think will give us a chance in 2022, much like we did last year. And you put yourself in a position that if he doesn't get it done, you'll have a chance to go at it again next year. And it'll be a much better group of quarterbacks that you can convince yourself, whatever we got to do, we'll do it to go get one of these guys. And I guarantee you, we won't allow teams to beat us to the punch. If we like a guy next year and we're sold on him from the jump, we'll make a move early on in the process, especially if the team drafting 2 or 3 doesn't need a quarterback. Because the likelihood is if you're drafting first, you need a quarterback. That's the likelihood. Not always the case. As we see this year, Jacksonville doesn't need a quarterback, but they're drafting one. But the likelihood is if you're drafting one, you're more likely than not need a quarterback. You're drafting 2, 3, more likely than not, you need a quarterback. Don't think Houston, if they stink again, Davis Mills is not the answer. They'll be looking for a quarterback next year. They might be the number 1 pick next year. So they're not trading out of one. But if you get a team like Jacksonville who's like, all right, yeah, we stunk, but the quarterback was good, but, we just had some issues defensively, whatever the case may be. And they're number 2, and they're like, no, we sold on Trevor Lawrence. They're looking to get out of 2. That's when you come calling. You can't wait. But let's hope it doesn't get to that, right? Here's to hoping that Carson Wentz turns the clock back permanently to 2017, but stays healthy this time. Cheers. Salud. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, Frank Reich couldn't get him playing well, but Washington thinks its coaches can get it done. Laughing my ass off. So glad we can cut him next year. Bad move, Ron. If you don't love this move, if you hate it, that's the stance you take right there. The guy that got him to play the best football of his career couldn't get him to rekindle the magic in Indy. And you think we're going to change that here? That's the tune that you sing if your glass half empty. If you're a pessimist about this, that's the move right there. And nobody can say anything about it. Again, 27/7 isn't terrible. But again, those numbers tell a story. And you have to actually do the work to know what that story says. You're not wrong, King of the North. I don't think it's a bad move. I think it was a desperate move. So that's where we differ. I don't think it was a bad move. I think it was a desperate move. Desperate moves can turn into bad moves, or desperate moves can turn into positive moves and good ones. Sometimes your best work comes out of desperation. I tell you, when I was in high school and in college, my best papers came on some last minute 25th hour shit. Back up against the wall. I knew about this paper for 3 months. But I wanted to wait all the way up until the day before it was due to pump out 15 pages. That shit was an A++ though. My best work came out of pure, utter desperation. As a wise man once told me, no pressure, no diamonds. It doesn't get more pressure packed for Carson Wentz than this. You don't perform in 2022, you're never a starter again full-time in this league. Doesn't get much bigger than that. John Perez, this is going to be interesting. My guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, Sup, Commander Lou. Stuck at work today, so I missed the trade, but wow. I'm up and down on this deal, but I'm personally willing to give Wentz a chance. Okay, look at JP being positive. See, JP wanted something done. JP was adamant last year, I want something done. This is bullshit. Okay? And he's been adamant all offseason. I want something done. And JP feels like I do, and probably like a lot of you out there feel like, on one hand, I hate this. On the other hand, I don't hate this. So you're kind of in the middle. When it first happened, my wife was reading me the parameters of the deal, what we gave up, how much we would be on the cap for, on the hook for with him. I was like, man, I almost don't know how to feel. I said, but then again, I know how to feel. I know how I feel, but it's just kind of in the middle. We'll see. Only time will tell. Okay, JP's on board. I like it. All right. LT, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, LT, writes, can't wait for you and LB during NFC East roundtable. I'm going to have to fire one of those up here shortly. After this happened, I'm going to have to fire up one of those. And I was planning on doing it anyway, but I might have to expedite that process now because I know a lot is going to be said on the next one of these things. So I may have to fire that bad boy up here sooner rather than later. James Lester, stand up. You are officially in the building as the newest member of the MOBB squad. You know what to do. Show James some love. Open those arms wide on the day where we probably all need hugs. James needs one as well. Welcome to the squad. James Lester, glad to have you. Let's see. Thank you for the super sticker, James Lester. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you for once again becoming the newest member of the MOBB. Glad to have you on board, James Lester. Britt Wilkins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Britt writes, our fans in here crying as usual. We got to keep our D. Please kill the Russian bot talk. I got mods in there, hopefully holding it down and taking care of business. Yes. You know, that our fans don't look, we're an battered and abused fan base. I never get mad at the fan base for whatever their initial reaction to something is, because after a while, you don't know how to feel about things anymore. You've been battered and bruised so much. So I don't usually get upset at the fans, you know, when they feel a way about something, even if it's not the same emotions that I share. I can't get mad at them. Burgundy Fly Guy, my guy BFG, what is going on, my man? It's been a long time. Always good to hear from you and know that your pulse is still out there going off. He says, great work, my fellow commander. It is awesome to see you live when this news dropped. Keep up the good work. It's always great to hear from you, and always a pleasure when you bless the program. BFG, my guy, Burgundy Fly Guy. Always welcome on the show. Always great to hear from you. Let's see. James Lester with another super sticker. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, James Lester. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for your contribution and your super sticker. And I'm just going to read a comment for you, dropping a couple of super stickers, who writes, how do you feel about Washington picking up Alvin Kamara and the middle linebacker from Seattle that was just released? Thank you, and keep up the good work. Alvin Kamara would be perfect for this offense. He's what they want, because they're used to having Christian McCaffrey. Alvin Kamara is a version of Christian McCaffrey. It's not quite the same, but it's like one of the closest you'll get to him in the league. I don't know if the Saints are going to allow him to walk away. I would imagine that if they can't come to terms on a long-term deal, if he is even a free agent, and I don't even know if that's the case. I would like to think that Alvin Kamara is not a free agent, because I thought he was holding out for a deal like just 2 years ago, and he got it. Let's see. Alvin Kamara contract. Yeah, in September, he signed a 5-year contract extension worth $75 million. Yeah, I remember that like a year or two ago where he was like, yo, I want my bread, and they gave it to him. He's not a free agent. And so they can't get rid of Alvin Kamara. Their team sucks if they don't have Alvin Kamara. So that's that. Bobby Wagner, we've already talked about that. He'll be interesting. But I would much rather try and see if we can find a guy in the draft first before we went after Bobby Wagner in free agency. But again, you may not be able to wait until after the draft. It just depends on what his market looks like prior to the draft. Let's see. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling. There we go. Thank you for doubling up. King of the North writes, the modern NFL the modern NFL has become so dependent on quarterback, will hurt the league. It used to be impossible to know which team will emerge. Now it's predictable. I don't think that's true. Here's why. Did you predict the 49ers would be in the NFC Championship game and a Jaquiski Tartt interception away from the Super Bowl? Did you predict that? I damn sure didn't. And if you did, you're some kind of swami, and you need to be working for Washington's front office so you can predict the future and help them right the ship. So I think that's false. Could you have predicted that in 2017, the Blake Bortles-led Jacksonville Jaguars would be within 7 minutes of the Super Bowl? You didn't predict that, did you? The league is predicated on teams with quarterbacks. Yes, that is a fact. And you need one. But it's not like the NBA. The NBA is so predictable, it's not funny. All right? You're not getting a team coming out of nowhere that gets hot late in the season to win an NBA championship or even make it. If you don't have a top 5 to 7 player on your team, you don't even stand a remote chance in the NBA unless everybody in the finals or everybody in the playoffs gets injured. That's the only reason Giannis just won a chip. And he's still a top 5 to 7 player in the league. And the only reason he won a chip is because everybody got hurt in the playoffs. That's not how the NFL is set up. You can have the best quarterback on the best team and still get your ass beat in the playoffs because all you got to do is win one game. If you had to win a series, the best team always wins in a series. Always. If they're healthy, the best team always wins in a series. The better team doesn't always win in a one-game winner takes all scenario. So I don't think that's true. It's not predictable. But I can tell you this, if you have a quarterback, it makes it a hell of a lot more likely that you're going to end up in the championship game or in the Super Bowl. Doesn't guarantee you anything. Aaron Rodgers, for the last 2 years, one of the best quarterbacks on the best team in the NFC, and last year didn't even make it to the championship game and still hasn't made it to a Super Bowl since 2011 was the last time he made it to a Super Bowl. So there's no guarantees in this thing. All right. There's no guarantees. But having a quarterback gives you the best shot. The only thing having a quarterback, an elite quarterback, guarantees you is that you won't suck if he's healthy. You'll have a chance. Adam, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. Adam, I'm going to read this comment right here. It says, feels like going to the thrift store for back to school shopping. That's a good one, Adam. Good one. Hey, did you go to Plato's Closet? I mean, all thrift stores are not created equal. You might come away with some fly ass gear, some cold ass shit from the thrift store. Have people asking you, hey, where you get that from? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Every now and again, you find some gems at the thrift store. Maybe this is that time. Adam, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Adam writes, feels like going to the thrift store for back to school shopping. We'll probably mess around and go 7-10 again and miss out on the best 23 quarterback prospects. So 7-10 puts you in the I'm out of range, area. But I told you, if you're desperate like we apparently are, then no matter where you finish, that shouldn't stop you from trading whatever it takes to get up to get a guy. So I'm not worried. I don't worry myself about, what finishing 7-10 or 8-9 is going to do to us. I'm worried about winning as many games as possible. And if it's not enough to qualify for postseason play and we end up in the middle of nowhere at 18 in the draft. Then I turn around and say, Ron, traded for Wentz. This is what you got. Now fix it. Go trade 3 1s and get up to go, or 2 1s and a 2 2s and go up there to get to number 2. Fix it. All right, let's see what we got. Barrett Downing, my guy BD, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Barrett Downing, who writes, okay, Lou, after a few drinks, I'm still in the trunk. Ron's playing, my brother. Hey, look, I've said this a million times, man. I'm not getting out of the car. All right. And I already told you, it's not going to be the smoothest of rides. There will be some bumps in the road. And there'll be a couple of times where you might think about telling Ron, hey, man, pull this shit over. Let me out. But I remain steadfast in my support of Ron. I've got my safety belt on. I'm not taking it off because, again, if we are to crash, the safety belt is going to be the only thing that stops me from flying through the front of the windshield. The airbags don't work. They never have in Washington. Okay. There are no airbags in the vehicles that you get from Washington. So if you don't have your safety belt on, you are going through the window. More likely than not, to your death. So I've got on my safety belt. And if Ron wraps this thing around a pole or a tree, hopefully I'm like the drunk guy that seems to always walk out of the biggest, baddest wrecks unscathed. Why is that? Me and my dad had this debate, and I know this is a non sequitur, but drunk people or people that are high, they never die in car accidents. It's always the person that they hit. And I think the reason why is because they're not tense. They're loose. Like they're getting in an accident and they're not bracing for impact. They're just loose, and whatever happens, happens. And I think that's how you're supposed to be. I think. I'm not sure. But they never die. I plan on wearing my safety belt. Hope it's enough. And since I'm not driving, maybe I'll knock back a few drinks. So maybe I too will walk away unscathed if this thing doesn't go. Look, I can tell you this much. If I see this thing starting to go off the side of the road and we start hitting those sleep lines and you start hearing, I'm going to knock back a few drinks because I know this shit is going nowhere fast. Maybe I will be able to walk out of that thing, the wreckage, unscathed and get into a new car. But right now, it's Ron's plan. Ron's plan. I'm just still controlling the radio. That's it. Kaylon Meekins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Kaylon writes, won that trade. Huge strategic victory in my book. Can't say that you won anything right now. Carson Wentz stinks, gets injured 7 games into the season, and well, if he gets injured 7 games into the season and doesn't finish, then that 3rd round pick stays a 3rd round pick. But if he plays just good enough to play the requisite 75% of the snaps or whatever it is in the contract to turn that 3 into a 2, and we still end up 8 and 9, that's probably your worst case scenario. And then you don't win the trade. You effectively gave up a 2nd and a 3rd round pick for a failed 1-year experiment. Now, again, it's better than the alternative, but the Colts will feel really good about they don't care what the hell we do, whether we make it to the playoffs. They're in the AFC. They could give 2 shits about what we do in the NFC. So if Wentz goes out and balls, they might be like, shit, why you ain't do that for us? I would just say, you ain't give him shit. You gave him Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. and said, here, make it enough. You treated him like Smokey. Smokey's mom said, here, give me a pack of cigarettes. He said, this ain't enough. She said, well, make it enough. Carson Wentz looked around and said, look, yeah, I love me some Jonathan Taylor. And Michael Pittman's a dude. This shit ain't enough, though. Where's T.Y. Hilton at? They said, look, we can't control T.Y. and his hamstrings and his ankles and all of that shit. Make it enough. He was like, but y'all told me I was going to have a boy from Ohio State. Where he at? Make it enough. We might give him a little bit more to work with here, and he may be able to make it enough. But if he doesn't, the Colts could care less. They just want the second. They want that third to turn into a second. That's all they care about. We'll see if it turns out to be a victory for us or not. Too early to tell. Got a super chat here from Ty Stroman. Thank you for the super chat, Ty. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, get Terry's contract done. It'll get done. This doesn't impact Terry getting his money at all whatsoever. Nothing to worry about here. Hunter Hodovic, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Double H, writes, T, sorry I'm late. I'm at work. No reason to apologize. Get that bread while it's there and it's hot to be got. How you feeling, man? I'm fine. He says, with Wentz now on the squad, I think we should just go after the best player available at 11. Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. And honestly, I think that's what they were going to do anyway. I don't think they were going to reach for a quarterback if they didn't love him at 11, just like last year. They could have gotten a quarterback. They could have traded up for a quarterback. They could have been more aggressive. But they didn't want Mac Jones having given up, compensation. And they didn't want Justin Fields having to give up compensation. If those guys fell into their lap, they would have taken them. But they weren't willing to give up anything to get them. I don't think they're going to reach this year either. But if someone's there that they love, they're going to take them. And that goes to the quarterback position before this trade. If there was a quarterback there that they loved, they would have taken him. Now with this move, I don't think you draft a quarterback at all. First, second, third, doesn't matter. I think now you go with BPA, whether that's a linebacker, a corner, a safety, a receiver. I think that's a guard. Dare I say a guard? Hell no, you don't draft no guard at 11. Hell am I talking about? Best player available. Dion Draper, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dion, I felt like you've super chatted before, so double up. I'm not sure, but just in case. Totally agree. Not much comp in our conference. Since you put it like that, what do you think Scott Turner can do with him now that he has a more talented QB? We're going to see. A lot of people love to pile on Scott Turner. I don't think he's that bad. My biggest problem with Scott Turner has been situational awareness. That's always been my knock on him is when we had Peyton Barber, there were times where we would get to the 1 or the 2 and we would have to practically beg him to give Peyton Barber the football, which was a guaranteed touchdown. I think about the Steelers game and I'm like, bruh, we just essentially threw it 4 straight times, didn't get in from the 1. And then we get a fresh set of downs going for it on 4th down with a pass interference on TJ Watt. And then you give it to Peyton Barber and he gets in. Like, why didn't you do that 4 plays ago, bruh? Situational awareness is the thing but I think he actually does a really good job of designing offense and getting guys open. And hopefully now there's a quarterback that can take advantage of some of the opportunities that were on the field that we may have been leaving on the football field. And trust me, Heineke left a lot of opportunities on the field. And before him, Dwayne Haskins left a lot of opportunities on the field. And before him, Alex Smith left a lot of opportunities on the field. So I think Wentz is a guy that can take advantage of some of these things, but we'll see. I'm excited about an upgrade at the quarterback position. Since Scott Turner's gotten here, this is the best quarterback he's had. I don't think it's close. So now the question is, what can he do and what can he get out of Wentz? I'm anxious to see. Because I, unlike a lot of you, actually don't have a problem with Scott Turner. I like Scott Turner. I don't love Scott Turner, but I like him. David Sanchez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, David Sanchez, writes, Arizona released Jordan Hicks. Thoughts? Remember, they were trying to trade Jordan Hicks last year. They couldn't find a partner. So this was something that we knew was coming. I like Jordan Hicks a lot. And again, much like Bobby Wagner, I'm looking at Jordan Hicks and I'm saying, hey, can I just put you on ice for right now? I just want to keep you chilled. All right. I want to take a look at this draft first, see what happens. And after the draft is done, if we don't like how things turned out, we're going to give your agent a call. So Jordan Hicks is another guy that I like. I think he's a good football player. I would probably rather take Bobby Wagner over Jordan Hicks, though. Just because I know what I'm getting out of Bobby Wagner. Hicks is younger. I like Jordan Hicks a lot. You know, this goes back to his days in Philadelphia. I like Jordan Hicks a lot then, too. Couldn't stay healthy with the Eagles. I probably would go with Bobby Wagner, though, just because he's a known commodity. And I still think there's good football left in Bobby Wagner. But let's see if we can't find a young boy in the draft first. Majesty 76, thank you for the super sticker. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Majesty 76. Dominic Milford, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Dominic writes, got a question for you, Lou. Shoot. He says, do you think Denver would have passed up Wentz if Russ didn't go for them? Low cost for upside. Bad that I don't hate it. He plays hard. Question mark. No, you shouldn't hate this. I've said this numerous times. You shouldn't hate this. You don't have to love this. You probably shouldn't love this, but you shouldn't hate it either. Would Denver have gone after Wentz? It's possible. Very possible. Let's say Russ chooses Washington, tells Seattle, I don't want to go to Denver. I only want to go to Washington, make it happen. And they trade him to Washington. There's a distinct possibility that the Broncos then say, all right, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, it's Wentz, or it's one of these quarterbacks in the draft. How you feeling? It's very possible they say, all right, let's kick the tires on Carson Wentz. Very possible. So we'll see what happens. I didn't think there would be a market for Carson Wentz. So it's intriguing to know. And I don't know if we'll ever find out, but I would love to know if anybody else called the Colts about Carson Wentz, or were we bidding against ourselves? I'd love to know that, because I felt like the market for Carson Wentz last year it wasn't non-existent. Obviously, the Colts traded for him, but I don't think it was buzzing, right? I don't think that there were 3 teams interested in Carson Wentz, and the Colts just happened to have the best package. I think they were the only teams really looking to go after him because of his history with Frank Reich. I think his stock might have gone down since last year, and that 27-7, and the Colts not making the playoffs. I think his stock might have either been at the same spot or it might have gone down even further. I don't know if it went down, though. That's hard. That's pretty harsh, because he was terrible in 2020. So with the fact that you could get out of his contract in a year, he might have been more appealing this year than he was last year. Anyway, it'd be interesting to know if anybody else was interested other than Washington. And your last question was, does he play hard? Yeah, he plays hard. No one has ever questioned his passion for the game or how much he puts into it. Part of it, sometimes that's his downfall, is that he plays too hard and tries too hard when a play's dead and he doesn't give up. CJ Shoots Photo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, yo, Louie, with Wentz Trade done. What direction do you think we will look at 11? Feel like trading back for more picks now to address middle linebacker, free safety, tight end, wide receiver, and guard. Again, I've stated this already. Trading back only works if somebody wants to come up to your spot to get a guy in particular. That's number one. It takes two to tango when talking trade. Number two, you have to value. Let's say somebody calls you from 17 and wants to come up to 11. The value at 17 in your mind must be equal or of similar value to 11. Meaning, if I trade back 6 spots, the guy that I'm going to get at 17, we feel like is just as good or just slightly worse. Just as good, pretty much, as the guy we were going to get at 11. We feel really good. So, essentially what I'm saying to you is, you have to be sitting there at 11, and the next 7 guys on your board have to be pretty much clumped together, and they're at positions of need. So you're like, hey, we can take any one of these dudes, and we'll feel good. One of them will be there at 17, and we'll feel good about him, just as good as we would have felt about taking this guy at 11. If you can't ensure yourself of that, if you are at 11, the phone rings and there's a team calling you from 17 wanting to trade up 6 spots, and you look at your board and there are only 3 players that you would love at 11, and if you trade back to 17, those 3 players may not be there. That's a risk that you may not be willing to take, even for the capital that you'll pick up moving back 6 spots. You may not be able to reconcile in your brain that we just passed up an opportunity to take 3 guys we got rated very highly on our board to move back, pick up a 2 this year and a 3 next year, which we're missing our 3 next year. And we're missing, out on a potential prospect or 2 here, but we're going to gain some capital, but at what cost? So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. I think the direction at 11 hasn't changed very much. I do feel like trading back becomes a bigger part of the discussion now because of the draft capital that you had to give up to get Wentz. Now recouping that, I think, becomes not a priority, but it's in the back of your mind, whereas that didn't exist before. I think now, if you see value being equal, trading back makes a ton of sense because you're looking to recoup that 3rd round pick, potential 2nd round pick, depending on what Wentz does for you. You're looking to recoup the 3rd rounder that you're losing this year. You're looking to recoup picks. So I think trading back is a bigger part of the thought process now, but I think nothing has changed in the sense that if we feel like there's a game changer at 11, we're going to take him. And I think that's what they're ultimately going to do, is take a player at 11. Majesty 76, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Majesty 76, who writes, do you think Jameson Williams will be there when we pick in the 2nd? No, I don't. There was a chance he could have been there when we came around at, 43 or whatever our pick was in the 2nd round. He will not be there at 53 or 52 or 54, wherever the Colts are. Even though he's coming off of an injury and may not even be able to play in the upcoming season, I think someone's going to take a flyer on him early in the 2nd round, if not late 1st round, because he's still a tremendous talent. So I think that he'll be gone by the time we come around in the 2nd round. Dominic Milford, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Dominic writes, but why Indy want him gone and no depth at quarterback? Poison. And that's what you have to ask yourself. Anytime a team is willing to give up on a guy this quickly, knowing that they don't have the answer in-house, you always have to ask yourself, why? When the Eagles traded Donovan McNabb to us, the first question anybody should have been asking is, Why would Andy Reid trade Donovan McNabb in the division? Why? Why? You got to ask yourself that. So I think that's a fair question. He wasn't terrible. Yeah, you missed the playoffs. Why are you so eager to get rid of him after 1 year? You that disappointed? I think there's got to be more to the story than that. We'll see. Let's see. Super chat here from Greg Coles. Thank you for the super chat, Greg. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Greg Coles, writes, gun to your head, Treylon Burks or Chris Olave at go at 11? I'd take Treylon Burks because I told you, I think we've got enough speed. You never can have enough speed, but I'd take, because Diami can run, because Curtis Samuel can run, because Terry can run, we don't have any size. I would take Treylon Burks if you're talking about at 11. If we trade back in the draft, Olave won't be there. And more likely than not, Burks won't be there. But if you told me that I couldn't get size, I'd want Olave. Like if you said Garrett Wilson or Olave, give me Olave. Yeah. But if you give me a chance between speed and size, give me size, because Treylon Burks can run too. He's not a stiff. He can run too. But I'm looking for some size. I'm looking for a guy that can go up and get the football, because we don't have that right now. I want a Mike Williams type of receiver, man. A guy that's just hoeing dudes. BFGs all over the place. Ball fragment grabs, where you just, as a DB, you just wiping ball fragment off your head. Like, get your sweaty ass balls off my head again, man. And he going up there and taking this shit. Top shelf. We ain't had a dude like that since. We had to have had somebody since Rod Gardner, man. Right? There's been a big receiver, right? We had somebody. I'm forgetting somebody, right? Because it seemed like all the guys we've had the last 20 years that have done damage for us have been 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet tall. Pierre Garcon, Deshaun Jackson, Santana Moss. These are all 5'11", 6 feet, 5'10" receivers. Josh Doxson was supposed to be that dude. When's the last time we had a reliable stud receiver that was north of 6'2", 6'2" or better? I think Rod Gardner was like 6'2". I may be missing somebody. Help me. But we don't have those guys very often. Leonard Hankerson was supposed to be another. Oh, Hank. We need some size, man. We need some size. Remember old no shirt? One hand, no shirt in the preseason or in training camp. What was his name? Former quarterback, turned wide receiver that we signed here that was pure ass. I'm not even gonna waste my time trying to remember his name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Mr. Streeter. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Streeter writes, QB in the first round still? I would if I was the GM. I can't confirm nor deny this. I've said this already, but in my mind, no chance we take a quarterback in the first round. 0. I won't put it at 0% because I'm not sure about that. If I were sure, if I was adamant, if I was like, there's no way we're taking a quarterback, I put it at 0%. I'd put it at 2%. There's a 2% chance we still take a quarterback. Highly unlikely. If you ask me, I don't see us taking a quarterback. Free Shabazz. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Free Shabazz writes, Wentz is the second best quarterback in the division, if not first. All right. I can't let you talk recklessly. All right. We all know Dak Prescott is number one and nobody in the division is close. So stop that. Okay. You may not love Dak, but he's a good quarterback. Okay. Is Wentz straight to number two? This may be a debate for me and LB, but I'd say yes. I'd say so. I mean, the Giants still don't have a guy, and you know how I feel about Jalen Hurts. He's a running back that can throw. So, yeah, I'd say we go straight to number two. But that's the same debate we had last year, and that didn't work out well for us. But this is a more established commodity here in Carson Wentz. So, anyway, I digress. Lone Revolver 1. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, think about it. McLaurin is best receiver Wentz will be throwing to in his career. It's been that bad. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. He did have Alshon Jeffrey, who to me was a low-level one at his best. Terry is a mid-tier number one in this league. So, yes, I would say that this is the best receiver he's ever had in his career. Because to me, Michael Pittman Jr. is a high-level 2. You could make the case that he's a low-level 1. But I think he's better suited to be a high-level 2, whereas McLaurin, to me, is a mid-level number 1. So I think you're right about that. See if we got any more super chats. And we do. Black King, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, how can you make anything good about this? Shaking my head. I've already given you all of the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. You make your own decision. Okay. But I've already laid out why this isn't a terrible move. Okay. Already laid that out. Carlton Bagano Jackson. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, CPJ. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, I'm 50-50, but let's see what happens and wish the best. LOL. That's all you can really do at this point. What's done is done. We've made our bed. Now we have to lie in it. And hopefully it's not a bed full of thumbtacks and sharp objects. Hopefully it's a nice, comfortable bed that we get a good night's rest in. And maybe more. Warren Jackson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Warren Jackson, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, who are these great quarterbacks next year you keep talking about? Well, for starters, there's 2 in particular. There's the Alabama quarterback. Why am I blanking on his name? Shuck. I can see his damn face. I can't think of his name. There's the Ohio State quarterback, C.J. Stroud. So that's 2 right there. All right. If you get a draft class where it's just 2 quarterbacks, like it was in 2015 with Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston, you'll take that. It was the same way in the 2016 draft, the following year, when it was Wentz and Goff. If it's 2 quarterbacks, you'll take that. Okay. And they're going to be more. There's going to be at least one. If you're starting with a baseline of 2 dudes, you know that there's going to be at least 1 or 2 more that emerge throughout the course of a college football season. It happens every year. It happens every year. Whether it's Joe Burrow, whether it's Zach Wilson, someone's going to come out of nowhere. Or a guy that people are talking about, but they're not sure. Someone's going to come and light it up. And everybody's going to be looking like, hey, like DJ Ugaluge, or however the hell you say his name at Clemson. He had a really terrible year. But the dude's talented. He may bounce back next year, light this shit up, take Clemson to a national championship. And you're like, hey, throw DJU into the mix. Ugalele, throw his ass in the mix. I surmise that when it's all said and done, because we're not going to feel any worse about the Alabama quarterback and the Ohio State quarterback. They're going to be really good prospects. Okay, you can see it already. We're not going to feel any worse about them. So then the question becomes, who's adding their name to the list? I'm going to go out on a limb and say at least 2 dudes are going to add their name to the list when it's all said and done. At least 2 more quarterbacks are going to say, hey, I'm a first-round quarterback. And me too. So to me, next year is going to be loaded because there's already 2 that we're already drooling over. Add 1 or 2 more and you're like, shit, we got 4 first-round quarterbacks. You'll take that all day long, all day strong. Dejan Bell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dejan Bell writes, I'm on board. God will bless us with MVP Wentz. I hope you're right. We sure could use a blessing around these parts. I hope you're right. Let's see. Super chat here from Jeremy Gerhardt. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Jeremy writes, have you talked about the cap hit? Sorry if you have, but now we have 5 million and 5 draft picks. What the F is going on right now? We're good. Again, they wouldn't have made this move if the cap was going to be impacted in a way that wouldn't allow them flexibility. When we went into this offseason, we went in knowing that we were going to have to go get a quarterback and that it was going to cost us a lot of money. A lot of y'all don't understand the inner workings of the cap. That 33 million is plenty. And again, the cap is going to go up. Numbers are coming off the books. There will be more cap freed up. If they needed more cap space, you could go to Landon Collins and free up $7 million. You could go to this guy and restructure if need be. There are things that can be done to free up cap space if they need it, and they don't. They don't need it. We're fine. Cap space is not going to be a problem. Trust me when I say this to you. One move doesn't take away all your cap space. The New England Patriots signed 80 guys in free agency last year, and they were all lucrative deals. What do you think? They had $800 million worth of cap space? No. You work these deals out and you work them in such a way that it allows you flexibility on the cap. We'll be fine. Okay. Trust me. Okay. Trust me. We'll be fine. Our cap is not an issue at all whatsoever. Trust me when I tell you this. Eli, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Eli writes, you guys are still in the QB wilderness, but now you have a tent, food, and water to get you by. Yeah, that sounds about right. You know, that tent, that food, and that water is enough to get us by, and ultimately may lead us out of the wilderness. You know, if he ends up being, as my guy Jahan Bell just said, if he is MVP Wentz, Dejan Bell, excuse me. That's why I had to go back and try, like, that doesn't sound right. If Dejan Bell is right and he's MVP Wentz, that may be, that tent, that water, that food may be enough to get us out of the quarterback wilderness. But at worst case, as you just mentioned, when it starts to rain, we can go in our tent, we get a little hungry, we can eat a little bit of food, and if we get a little parched, our throat gets a little parched, we got a little bit of spring water we can throw down the old gullet, and we're not out here starving, you know. So worst case scenario, he either gets us to 2023 or he gets us out of the wilderness altogether. But you're not wrong. That's a really good one, Eli. Good one. Good one. William Lee, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, William Lee, writes, Carson would play 7 games. Heineke would play 8. Then Allen would play the last 2. So you're assuming that they're going to re-sign Kyle Allen because he's no longer on the roster. If Carson only plays 7 games, we're drafting a quarterback in 2023, and we will have our second pick in 2023 as well. So it goes both ways. Tony P56, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, we all have HV Stockholm syndrome. He says we all have Stockholm syndrome as fans of this team. Facts. We side with the abuser over and over and over and over and over again. And we don't know how to feel about a lot of things. Our emotions are all over the place. It is what it is. You know, already talked about this. It is what it is. You're 100% spot on. Super chat here from Eric Francis. Thank you for the super chat, Eric. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, as an NDSU alum, North Dakota State University, Bison, for those of you keeping score at home, he says, I just want Wentz to succeed. Is that too much to ask? No, it's not. He went to your alma mater, and you always want to see those guys do well, which is why I was rooting for Taylor Heineke like hell. He came from my alma mater at Old Dominion. He was a fellow Monarch. I wanted to see him succeed. And that's why I want to keep him here, because I think he can succeed in this league as a backup. There's nothing wrong with rooting for a guy that brought you fond memories and gave you something to cheer about with your alma mater. Nothing wrong with that, wanting to see that guy succeed. See. Johnny Boy 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Johnny Boy 26 writes, Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave at 11. More speed. I myself am an Olave guy, but you know, Garrett Wilson is a guy that I have a love-hate relationship with him. He's all right, but I know Chris Olave is a technician. I know he can break off some of the best corners in football because I watched him do it at the collegiate ranks. And I know this guy has, now I know he has legitimate speed to get over the top and bless, you know, opposing defenses. So I'm more of an Olave guy because I know he can do it all. Whereas Garrett Wilson, I'm not sure how technical he is. I always like the guy that can separate with his route running ability. I know Olave can do that. Kevin, the PRF, says Rod Gardner was trash. He was, but he had a 1,000-yard season. And that's what I was trying to get to, is we haven't had a dude with size have a 1,000-yard season in Washington in eons. That goes to show you just how terrible we've been at drafting wide receivers. The last 1,000-yard receiver, 6'2" or better for this team, was probably Rod Gardner. Let that sink in for a little bit. Hoodie Quays, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Hoodie Quays, who writes, Louie, best running back to back up AG in the draft. I don't know the answer to that yet. I could tell you this. Right now, the guy that I looked at and said would be the perfect complement to him would be James Cook out of Georgia. But I think he'll actually be there at 50, whatever we are now. And it'd be the perfect spot for him to come off the board. I like James Cook a lot, and I think he'd be the perfect complement. So I do know, actually. He'd be the perfect complement to Antonio Gibson. But that's assuming you don't bring J.D. McKissick back. If you bring back J.D. McKissick, then all James Cook is a clone of J.D. McKissick. What I'm really, truly looking for is a 3-down back. Another guy that if AG goes down, You don't have to insert JD McKissick. You can keep JD in his third down, change of pace running back role while elevating that other guy to first and second down back and still getting quality reps out of him. There's several guys. Let me take a look at my notes from the combine. See if there's anybody that stood out. Tyler Goodson out of Iowa is another interesting name. I did not think he was going to run that fast. I liked him at Iowa, and he's a good first and second round. But I got to do more work on the running back position, so I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. I got more work to do with the running back position, but off the top of my head, I'm also an Isaiah Spiller fan. He would be great in the second round. I don't know how fast he is, and I don't think he's going to blaze the 40. So I think that's going to pull him down, and I'd love to get my hands on an Isaiah Spiller in the second round. Wouldn't it be great if he fell to the third? Oh, I forgot. We don't have a third round pick. So, yeah, like an Isaiah Spiller would be ideal, but we'll see. Ultimately, I don't think running back is a high enough need that you should be spending a first or a second round pick on it anyway. So you'd have to really do homework and find a guy like the 49ers did with Elijah, Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana Lafayette last year. In the sixth round, he was a sixth round pick and almost rushed for 1,000 yards. You got to go digging deep like that. Again, come back to me in a month and I'll be able to tell you exactly who you should be looking for in day number 3 in like the 5th round as a running back, because that's what kind of pick I'm trying to spend at running back. I'm not trying to spend a second round pick on running back. It's not that big of a need. 5th, 6th round pick on a running back. That's how I'm feeling about the position. David Sanchez. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. David Sanchez, who writes, with Carson, did we really upgrade? Yes. Yes, we did. To what extent? I can't tell you, but it's a clear upgrade. He's better than Taylor Heineke. He's better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's better than Dwayne Haskins. He's better than Alex Smith. He's better than all of these quarterbacks that we've been parading around on this team. Kyle Allen. He's better than all of those boys that we've seen the last 2 years since Ron's gotten here. Yeah, we did upgrade. Dion Draper, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Dion writes, I'm riding with this team regardless. Wentz being best QB we had in a while, plus me actually trusting Scott Turner somewhat equals run it. Hashtag Ron's plan. Ron's plan. He's going to need a run game. He didn't really have one in Philadelphia, but he's going to need one. Had one, a dominant one in Indy. How about putting the two together? A nice, solid, balanced attack where he doesn't have to be the guy, where he can just be a part of the mix. And when we need him, maybe he'll show up and ball out. Alan Nudis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Wentz is better than Mariota or any quarterbacks on the market if he can play like he does against us. I've already said that it was better than any option that remained available to us. And that even includes trading for Jimmy Garoppolo. Any guy in free agency, trading for Jimmy Garoppolo, this was the best option of the options remaining on the table for us to pursue. So, again, that's why you can't hate this. You may not love it, but it beats the alternative of a veteran and one of these quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. It beats the alternative, to me, at least. You may not agree, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree. Hoodie Quays, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Louie, we got to trade up next year to get Bryce Young. Bryce Young, that's his name. I don't know why I was blanking on his name. Or CJ Stroud. That's another guy. He says maybe Will Levis from Kentucky, as you say, he's toolsy. Will Levis is a big son of a bitch that was at Penn State, transferred to Kentucky, trying to get his shit together. Not the biggest Will Levis fan, but again, if he continues to develop, guys get better over the life of their college football careers. It happens. So, like I said, there'll be quarterbacks and there'll be one or two guys that we're not talking about right now that will emerge that we will be talking about this time next year. So, if you're starting with two guys that are can't miss, which we feel like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are, then you're starting with a really good platform and base for next year's draft. All right. Hoodie Quays, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Hoodie Quays writes, Louie, great minds think alike. I think James Cook too. For me, he'd be, if you're not bringing back J.D. McKissick, he'd be ideal. Because to me, they do one in the same. Now, if you're not bringing back J.D. McKissick and you just decide to replace him with James Cook, I'd be okay with that. But again, to me, where you would have to draft James Cook is too early for us to be exploring running back. We got other pressing needs on this team that need to be addressed much earlier than running back does. If you just told me we bought back the entire cast of characters at running back, I'd say, okay, I'm fine with that. I would like to upgrade the back end. Jarrett Patterson is cool, but I think we can do better. But if you told me, hey, we're just going to run it back at running back, I said, okay, I'm cool with that. If they did nothing at running back but brought J.D. McKissick back, re-signed him, I'd be okay with that. But I think James Cook is going to cost you a second-round pick. I don't think there'll be a first-round running back. However, with those 40 times, maybe one of those guys sneaks into the back end, because I think what will ultimately happen is teams will look at the missed opportunity with Jonathan Taylor, and they'll look at the kid from Michigan State, and they'll say to themselves, he could be the next Jonathan Taylor. I don't want to miss out on him as a first round, back into the first round team. So he could sneak in with the time that he ran. Breece Hall, same thing. But I think the real run on running back starts in the second round, and I think Cook is a part of that. And I just don't think we're in a position to take a running back in the second round. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Derek B, writes, love this move. Okay, if this is Derek B and John Perez approved, shit, we going in the right direction. He says, Wentz was playing well before COVID. Colts are a better team than the Dubs. Higher expectations made them look bad. Worth a chance. Everything you said there, spot on. Nothing was wrong with that assessment. However, I always, and this is where your expectations come into play, but I always am somewhat hesitant when a team is willing to give up on a guy in the manner that the Colts were willing to give up on Carson Wentz. And it could just be because the expectations were high and he did not meet or exceed them, or if they missed the playoffs or the season. You know what? Now that Carson Wentz is a member of this team, I am going to watch the in-season Hard Knocks. I am dying to watch it now because I want to get to know Carson Wentz and the type of teammate he is. And I want to see how he handled the Week 18 debacle. Now I'm going to watch it and I'm going to report my findings to you. I'm going to binge watch Hard Knocks, Indianapolis Colts in season. I'm going to go ahead and binge it now. The Great Watubi, thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. The Great Watubi writes, I feel better about Wentz than last offseason with Fitz. How about you? That's not even a question. You knew I wanted Wentz. I wanted Fitz nowhere near our squad. I couldn't stand the move. But you know how I am. Once they're a part of the family, I embrace them. But I wanted no parts of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and you guys know this. I didn't want Wentz, but I wasn't against Wentz like I was Fitzpatrick. I was like, yeah, I'm good on Wentz. But Wentz was intriguing last year. I was like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of, off the field stuff in the locker room that doesn't sit well with me. But I thought he actually played solid last year, you know? And so if there's no issues in the locker room, that's what I'm still trying to vet, right? Like, why were the Colts so gung-ho to get rid of him? Were there some issues? You know, was that COVID situation that tense for them that he didn't get the vaccine and it ultimately cost him and them? Did that really drive a wedge in between them and their relationship? Or was he a guy that didn't get along with everybody in the locker room like it was in Philadelphia? Like, these are things I would like to know. But if you tell me everything's cool in the locker room, he was a great teammate, and really it just boiled down to they were disappointed because he didn't get it done, sign me up. Sign me up. I didn't want Fitz at all last year, though. Honor Immortal. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, why did the Colts trade Wentz? Again, they were disappointed. He didn't get it done. They didn't make the playoffs. They flamed out in week 18 versus Jacksonville. He didn't get the vaccine. He ended up getting COVID. There's a lot of reasons why they were pissed off and not happy with Carson Wentz at the end of the season. It was a culmination of things. The only thing that I don't know and I can't verify at this very moment is what kind of a teammate he was. It seemed like he's a good teammate. I saw a lot of clips of him, you know, really bonding with his teammates. They did a basketball thing in training camp with him and Mo Alley Cox, who was a basketball player at VCU. And, you know, it just seemed like he was on a good on good terms with his teammates, but I don't know that for a fact. So they were disappointed in Carson Wentz's finish to the season. And again, there were other circumstances that really frustrated them, including him not getting the vaccine. Hoodie Quays, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Louis, I'm now thinking Drake London might be the number 11. He could be. I told you, a big body receiver is all we're missing. And I think they understand it, because that's part of the reason I think they want Cam Sims back, is because he's a big body receiver and he's the only big body receiver that we had on the roster. You take him away and now you don't have any big body receivers. And you'd like to have a guy that's north of 6'2" on your roster, which we currently do not have. Brian Williams, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. I'll read this super chat here from Brian Williams, who writes, Doc, why hasn't anyone looked at Tyler Huntley from Baltimore? That dude is a beast. I'm good on Tyler Huntley. He's not a beast. He's a solid backup quarterback. That's what he is. And not only is he a solid backup quarterback, he's a solid backup quarterback in the system that he's in behind Lamar Jackson. To me, at best, he's Tyrod Taylor. And I'm good on Tyrod Taylor. Thank you, but no thanks. All right, so that was the last super chat. Appreciate you guys chopping it up with the kid with this breaking news bombshell. Washington, the day after they strike out on Russell Wilson, they say, all right, back to the drawing board. Let's not get caught without a chair in this game of musical chairs. They get right back after it and make a deal for former Colts, former Philadelphia Eagles starting quarterback Carson Wentz. And the deal, for those of you just showing up, just getting here, just joining us, the deal looks like this. Wentz and a second-round pick in exchange for Washington's second this year, Washington's third this year, and Washington's third next year, which can convert to a second based off of play time for Wentz in the 2022 season. If he plays 70% of the snaps, that third-round pick converts to a second-round pick. So essentially what I'm telling you is we're swapping twos this year, and we gave up 2 threes for Carson Wentz that could eventually be a 3 and a 2 if he plays enough snaps for us in the upcoming season. Not a bad price to pay for a guy that could potentially be the answer for you at the quarterback position. Not a bad price at all. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louis T. I thank you guys for joining me. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, post up. take command. Ron, he did something. What, you may ask? We don't know yet. But he did something. He said he was going to do something at quarterback. I told you Ron has not lied to us yet. Now, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. This is an upgrade over any quarterback we've had since Ron has gotten to Washington. And that, my friends, is not up for debate. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I'll see you guys next time. We will be live tomorrow night for the Command Post Live. Look forward to chopping it up with you. We will find out more about this trade, how it came to be, and so many other aspects of it between now and when we go live. So we'll even have more to chew on with this trade as far as I'm concerned. So big news, big move. See if there are big results that come along with it. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless and good night.